Hey, this is Kevin Kelly, and you are listening to the Stardom Cast.
This is Jesse from Club Venus from Stardom, and you're watching Stardom Cast.
Hello guys and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I'm your host, Rob Gooden. I'm joined as ever by Mr. Matt Turner for what I think it's fair to say the most landscape-shaping pay-per-view in recent Stardom memory, Matt. We are very much in the sort of post-conversion days, and good God, I think it's fair to say Stardom will never be the same again.
Yeah, I know a lot of people thought the wrestling was great, which obviously it was. Some people are scratching their heads or even a little upset over the booking, especially with that Queen's Quest versus Oedo Tai elimination match. Now, I am not one of them. I think the booking was absolutely genius. Obviously, we will get into it. I just want to let everybody know, relax, it's going to be fine. What they have set up between now and probably the end of the year is going to be absolutely fantastic. And I have not been this excited about Stardom since probably 2022. I am super, other than, well, All-Star Grand Queenum last year, but I am super pumped at what they have in the pipeline and what this probably means. So everybody relax. Don't cancel your Stardom World subscriptions just yet. It's going to be fine. And again, this is coming from a ginormous Queen's Quest and Saya Kamitani fan. Just take a deep breath. Uncle MT is going to get you there. There's a lot of really, really good stuff that they are building off this show. But before we get into that, and before we talk about this fantastic New Blood show and Konami and Bloodsport and what a show that was, I don't want to start off the show with any negativity. However, we do like to respect and pay homage to the brothers and sisters that have made their way to the heavenly ring in the sky. As we're recording this, we found out just the other day that one half of the Wild Samoans, Sika, WWE Hall of Famer and father of Roman Reigns, had passed away at the age of 79. And I was just going through Twitter and I was seeing some nice tributes people were paying. And then looking at these pictures of Sika back in the 70s and 80s. And Rob, it dawned on me that Sika is the reason I don't eat mustard. Would you like to hear the story, sir?
Mike, you could have given me 3.5 hours podcasting with you, my friend, and I genuinely would not have thought they would be the words that were coming out during a Sika tribute. So yes, absolutely would love to know why this is the reason you don't eat mustard.
Now, I'm 5, maybe 6 years old, watching Saturday night's main event, and Jesse Ventura says, coming up next, Jake the Snake Roberts versus Sika. But we're going to go to a Sika promo, didn't say promo, but Sika is in the back with Mean Gene Okerlund. So Mean Gene Okerlund, obviously the stick man, the greatest of all time. Mr. Fuji, who's Sika's manager. Now, keep in mind, Sika is a Wild Samoan. He doesn't speak English. That's the gimmick, right? He does not speak English. Now, I have not seen this promo in at least 25 years, and I literally was looking at these pictures online, and because of Sika's giant beard, I remembered this promo like it was yesterday. So again, it's Sika. This is how my wrestling brain works. It's how much I love pro wrestling. So again, it's Mean Gene Okerlund holding the microphone stick, Sika, who doesn't speak English, and Mr. Fuji. So Fuji's doing all the talking, but Sika's holding this giant loaf of bread. And the premise of the story is not only going to beat Sika, but they're going to have Damien for dinner. And they're going to put Damien on this giant hot dog roll or foot-long, sandwich. And they're going to cover him with mustard. And I remember Mean Gene goes, mustard? And then Mr. Fuji proceeds to take a giant wooden spoon, dip it into this gallon of mustard, and Sika starts licking the spoon. Sika starts, now keep in mind, this is like 87, 88. I'm 5, 6 years old. He starts licking the spoon and he gets all of that mustard in his beard. And I'm like, that's absolutely gross. And I've never eaten mustard after that. And I'm not on burgers, not on. And I'm a fan. My wife will tell you, I'm a fan of condiments. Give me ketchup, give me hot sauce, give me garlic, salt, pepper. I love condiments. You know, the more flavor, the better. But I just thought that I was like, man, Sika. I remember he was kind of towards the end of his prime when I first really, really got into wrestling in the mid to late 80s. Again, 5, 6 years old. But I remember that. And again, I haven't seen this promo. It's got to be 25 years. And just looking at that picture, I remember that promo almost word for word with all that mustard coming out of his mouth and in his beard as he was the ultimate wild Samoan. So, it was a nice little, obviously it's terrible to, lose one of these wrestling legends at the age of 79, especially the fact the father of Roman Reigns, the biggest draw in wrestling over the last 5 or 6 years. But it's nice to remember. You will always have those memories. And again, it's a promo I have not seen in well over 20 years. I'm sure if you go on YouTube, it is somewhere there. But I remember it very fondly all of a sudden.
So for those of you who think wrestling isn't real, it is very real to Mr. Matt Turner, as for the almost 40 years he has been on this planet. Oh, no, more than 40. How old are you, Matt?
42.
42. Over brother. 40 years that Matt Turner has been on this planet. He has not touched mustard, and that is because of pro wrestling. So yes, pro wrestling is real. Matt Turner, though, obviously, if you are okay with the trauma of mustard and obviously of everything else to do with mustard, I think we should talk a little bit about our Patreon and what's coming up this week on the Stardom Cast Extra.
Boy, we are locked and loaded. We have dropped a lot of goodness and a lot of goodness coming up over the next handful of days. As usual, we did our alternate commentary to a match that we all liked, but once we wind up watching it again, we realized we absolutely loved it. The final My Himi match, Mike and Himika teaming up right before Himika's retirement to take on the reunion of one night only, or winds up becoming 2 nights, of the ALK sisters, Shuri and Julian. Boy, howdy. That was an absolutely fantastic match, probably the best My Himi match that they had as a team. That was our alternate commentary. And yeah, if you have not seen that match in a while, or haven't seen it at all, please, take the 35 minutes to go and watch myself and Rob do the alternate commentary, because that is top 10, one of the best tag matches in Stardom history. By the time this drops, give or take a few hours, myself and Andy Header we basically, we compare and contrast what show we liked better. Night 1 of the 2021 5-Star Grand Prix or night 1 of the 2023 5-Star Grand Prix. Absolutely loaded with some of the best matches in the history of the 5-Star Grand Prix. So I had a really good time recording that one, Andy Header. And again, that'll probably be up on your Patreon feeds sometime on Thursday. So maybe by the time this drops, you will have it there. And then next week, our alternate commentary. Well, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself, because next week we'll go into the month of July. We'll get into that in a minute. And then at the very end of the month, dropping this Sunday, will be our roundtable discussion with Karen Peterson. We will be doing a roundtable discussion on a career retrospective with one Utami Hayashishita. We did one with Julia, with one Karen Peterson a handful of months ago. We figured with Utami Hayashishita on our way to Marigold and having the biggest dream match in the history of dream matches coming up in about 2 weeks' time, we figured it'd be nice to sit down with the great Karen Peterson and do a roundtable discussion on the Stardom career of Utami Hayashishita. Fingers crossed we get that done, because I've had to reschedule this 6 times. So fingers crossed we get this done. Also, Andy Header decided, because this Sunday I will be going to Forbidden Door with one Andy Header and our editor-in-chief, Sean Montrose. And Andy said, well, it's going to take about 3 hours to get back. We're going to talk about the show regardless. Do you think we should record a podcast while we are on our way back? So obviously I asked Sean, our editor-in-chief, who's phenomenal with sound. He's like, that's an absolute great idea. So literally the podcasting for Uncle MT does not stop. So we are, fingers crossed, we're going to try to record our review of Forbidden Door on our way home. And I also did give Andy Header a little bit of homework when we were doing our compare and contrast what show we liked better. So I gave him some Stardom matches to watch, and I said, hey, if you can get these matches done by Sunday night, you can do a little review on some of these matches. Some of these matches include Micah versus Utami Hayashishita for Micah's World of Stardom Championship, Julia versus Starlight Kid from the 2022 5-Star Grand Prix. There was a handful. Mirai versus Momo Watanabe, the white belt match, which is all sorts of hard hitting. So I gave Andy a little bit of homework, so there might be some bonus material on that as well. So yeah, a lot of really good stuff coming up on the Patreon. That'll take us to the month of July. Partner, should we tell our fantastic listeners of the Stardom Cast what we have coming up for the loaded month of July?
I feel like it'd be rude not to at this point.
Right, absolutely. So let's get into it. Alternate commentary. Once again, I just realized just about an hour or two before we hit the record button, there is 5 Mondays in the month of July. So we are going to be doing not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 alternate commentaries for our Patreon listeners, and there will be a theme of the 5-Star Grand Prix as we are just about 5 weeks away from the start of the 5-Star Grand Prix. So the matches that we'll be doing alternate commentary, number 1 will be the match that'll be dropping in your feed next Monday, Julia taking on Sayori Anu from the 2023 5-Star Grand Prix. And then no specific order, Momo Watanabe versus Mayu Iwatani from the 2021 5-Star Grand Prix. Micah versus Risa Sarah from the 2022 5-Star Grand Prix. We stay in the 2022 5-Star Grand Prix as Suzuki takes on Starlight Kid in an absolutely hidden gem match from that 5-Star Grand Prix. And then, partner, forgive me, but what was your other pick? We're missing one here. What was your other pick?
There's no need to forgive you, my friend, because I completely forgot to give you one. So if you bear with me, on next week's episode, I will have my next pick locked and loaded for you, because there is a positive treasure trove of 5-Star Grand Prix matches out there to watch, and there's a couple I want to have a look at once again. So leave it with me, and I'll get back to you.
We have plenty of time, my man. Roundtable discussion. I'll be joined once again by the great Scott E. Wrestling as we will do our top 5, which may turn into top 10, top 5 favorite championship runs in the history of Stardom. And you can pick Goddess. I could tell them High Speed. You could pick Red Belt, White Belt. We're going to be doing our top 5. Again, it may change to top 7 or top 10. Favorite championship runs in the history of Stardom. And then our what if. Once again, Allison Danger. I didn't even ask her. She asked me. She said, I want to do this episode for What If. Now, last year, because it was Forbidden Season time last year, myself and you, Rob Goodwin, the great Rob Goodwin, we did a What If. Me and you booked Forbidden Door if Stardom was a part of it. We came up with such great matches as Toni Storm versus Mayu Iwatani and Hazuki versus Katsuhori Shibata. Allison Danger says, I want in. Yeah, I know. Damn right. How can you forget about that match? Allison Danger said, it's Forbidden Door season. I want in, but we are not limiting it to just Stardom or New Japan or All Japan. It's basically 5 matches that we want to see with any and every wrestling company. There is a very good chance Allison Danger will go off script and may go to like All Japan Women's 1993 and bring Mayumi Toyota in to wrestle 84 Hulk Hogan. I don't care. Allison's great. She can do whatever she wants. So that is all what is coming up on the Patreon. And obviously we're going to see what myself and Andy are going to be doing as far as our bonus episodes. Oh, we are doing Tag Team Breakdown. Tag Team Breakdown next month will, come back. That seems to be something that everybody likes. Rob Goodwin, I will give you one guess on what tag team match we are doing for Tag Team Breakdown.
Would it be FWC versus Crazy Star?
That was an option. No, sir. Even better, it is Thunder Rock versus Kairi Hojo and Mako Satomura, because I cannot get enough of this match. That is a match that has been revisited about 9 or 10 times on the show, but Andy's never seen it before. I know it's absolutely going to knock his socks off. So that's what's going on for Tag Team Breakdown. Obviously, there's going to be other stuff in there, our non-Stardom match. Then obviously Rob has another alternate commentary to go to. And then we're going to be doing myself and Andy. Once again, we'll be comparing on a contrast what shows we liked. I'm not sure where we're going with that yet. So yes, that's everything, folks, that is on the Patreon right now. Everything coming up this week, and then everything coming up for the loaded month of July.
And we just want to say, obviously, thank you so much to all of our fantastic patrons over at patreon.com/the Stardomcast. And special thanks go out to two brand new patrons, Scott Morgan and Will Humphreys. Thank you so much for your support, you guys. We really, really do appreciate it. Obviously, because we dropped the Marigold Standard a little bit late, it dropped in your feeds, or should have dropped in your feeds yesterday. There's not a whole deal of news, any news that had come out. We covered yesterday. We talked about Tsukasa Fujimoto's injury and the surgery she's just had, the announcement of Sariism Chapter 4, and the fact that Natsupoi is going to be teaming with Sari against Takumi Aroa and Azumi in an incredible dream match. There's just a couple of Stardom-based bits of news that I just want to go into. First things first, the two shows that Stardom have booked back-to-back in Sapporo on the 27th and 28th of July have been christened the Stardom Sapporo Rendezvous, or Wonder and World Rendezvous. So basically the gimmick is that on the 27th of July, the Wonder Rendezvous in Sapporo will have a Wonder of Stardom Championship match, and of course, you've guessed it, with the World Rendezvous the following day, there will be a red belt title match. Now, with what has transpired at the Conversion, I can probably imagine what that red belt match is going to be, but that is worth putting into your calendars. The 27th and the 28th, a red belt and a white belt title match. Matt has already mentioned the 5-star Grand Prix. Well, during the Conversion, I'm not going to do it every single time, otherwise people might turn off. During the Conversion pay-per-view, Stardom announced some of the matchups for the opening night of the 5-star Grand Prix. Not all of them, obviously, as there are still some spots up for grabs. But the following matches have been made official for August 10th, which is when the 5-star Grand Prix actually begins. Shiori versus Starlight Kid, Maika versus Natsupoi, Saya Kamitani versus Saori Ano, and Mai Iwatani versus Tam Nakano. Matt Turner, I mean, if you want to set the standard on that opening night, I don't think there's much better way than those 4 matches, my friend.
It really seems like, and again, maybe it's just because I just did this night one review of some of these 5 stars with Andy and just watched these matches. It really seems like, as far as pure wrestling goes, night one of the 5-star Grand Prix for the past 4 or 5 years is like one of the best wrestling shows you will see all year, not just from Stardom, not just from a Japanese wrestling company, but from all of wrestling. And it really seems like they're keeping foot here. I mean, Saya Kamitani versus Soriano, Natsupoi and Mike is going to be fun because of like the size differential, but the fact that Natsupoi works really well with the harder hitter wrestlers, and we know that Micah works really well like the higher speed style wrestlers. We saw in 2022, her match with Azumi was fantastic, and Natsupoi right now is better than Azumi was in 2022, and Micah's way better now than she was 2 years ago. And again, it's the My Himipoi thing, the DDM thing, you throw that in the mix, but then you have Mayu and Tam, where again they still have all these unresolved issues. They had that 30-minute time limit draw for Tam's Wonder of Stardom Championship back at the end of 2021, and then they had a 5-star Grand Prix match last year that went to a time limit draw that absolutely sold out Korakuen Hall. It was one of the highest attended Stardom shows in Korakuen Hall with Mayu and Tam up top. So not only going to have great matches, but Tam and Mayu against each other is going to draw massive tickets. And we've noticed about 5-6 weeks ago the attendance was a little low for Stardom. This past 2 weeks it picked back up, and obviously they had a packed house, which we'll talk about. And the Conversion. Sorry, I had to steal your gimmick, kid.
Lovely.
But you have those matches, and we don't know who else is going to be in this 5-star Grand Prix. Maybe Miko Iwata, fingers crossed. Maybe Mariah May. Maybe somebody else from AEW. Maybe somebody coming over from Sendai Girls. We do see Mr. Okada working with a lot of different companies and giving a lot of companies a lot of leeway on his shows and giving some talent over. I would not be shocked if saying, hey, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. That's kind of just how business works. And maybe we can bring some of this big name talent over for the 5-star Grand Prix. Again, we still have 12 spots that are unnamed yet. I know they said it's probably the first week of July, so I'm really, really looking forward to see what those names are. Obviously, we're gonna have Mina Shirakawa in there somewhere. Some of the other big Saida, I'm assuming is going to be in there somewhere as well. So yeah, just those 4 matches, they gave us just a little taste, my man, just a little taste of what we're getting on night 1, but I cannot wait for the 5-star Grand Prix. And I did make mention of this on one of our alternate commentaries about a week or 2 ago. And if I don't make mention of it now, I will forget. We are going to be doing for our Patreon listeners, a 5-star Grand Prix contest like we have done in the past. We pick the winners, the block winners, and whoever has the most points, you get a gift from me, whether it's one of Rob's books, whether you want a whole bunch of stickers, or whether you want something from our merchandise shop. So, as we're getting closer to the 5-star Grand Prix, we'll have those details. So if you're ever on the fence about signing up for the Patreon, is another really cool thing that we're going to be doing. Once again, our 5-star Grand Prix contest. And it just makes a really cool tournament even better.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll also be releasing our annual 5-star Grand Prix primer, where we talk about the blocks, sort of give you the background of the tournament, the stats for the tournament, and also look at each individual wrestler's individual statistics as well, really going into granular depth with the 5-star Grand Prix. Of course, this year, the first year that Stardom will be running a 4-block tournament rather than a standard 2. Matt, I know that obviously you are a big fan of Bloodsport. I actually haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but I know that you want to give us a little bit of a rundown of Konami's ventures in Bloodsport land. And I, my friend, am giving you the floor to regale the good people of Konami's match with Fukuda.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through the whole show, but the whole show was really, really good if you like that style. I'm sure everybody's seen the picture of Jon Moxley bleeding like absolutely crazy. His match with Josh Barnett. That was terrific. Minoru Suzuki versus Timothy Thatcher. That was great. There was some really, really good matches on this Bloodsport, and the show went by relatively fast. It was one of their longer ones, but the whole show was terrific. However, this is the Stardom Cast podcast, and we will have to, obviously, we made mention before that I'm going to review former Goddess and Artist Champion in Konami taking on Maya Fukuda. I knew nothing about Maya Fukuda. She came out first, obviously a smaller wrestler, compared to, not that Konami's like, the Great Khali, there's your reference, but regardless, she comes out and I knew nothing about her, and kudos to Stu Fulton, and I forget who his partner was. He was really good as well. They went through, I think I even texted you as soon as this match was over. They went through so much fantastic stats. They talked about how Konami was former Goddess champion, former Artist champion, talked about her run with Jungle Kiona, talked about the late great Hana Kimura, mentioned how they would love to see current God's Eye member Rana Yugami in Bloodsport, and I was like, hell yeah, I would love to see that. But Maya Fukuda was actually trained by Kiyoshi Tamura. Kiyoshi Tamura is an absolute legend when it comes to the shoot style of wrestling and is known as Billy Robinson's greatest student ever, which is saying a lot considering the fact that Kazushi Sakuraba, who was also on the show, trained under Billy Robinson as well. So not only that, but Tamura was in Fukuda's corner, and Tamura does not, he just trained wrestlers. He doesn't do interviews. He doesn't go out. He's basically a hermit. It's like you never see him go out anywhere. So that's how important this was. So I thought that was really, really cool. They did mention how Konami has been training for this shoot style match heavily with Shuri. And they mentioned how Shuri, current leader of God's Eye, the faction that Konami's in, and Shuri, former Queen of Pancrase, and has fought in the UFC before. So I thought that was really cool. The match starts off with a kick trade-off. Konami loses the kick trade-off and smartly goes to a double leg takedown. She basically uses the knee-on belly tactic to transition to the armbar. Konami then goes for an Achilles lock. However, Maya Fukuda is able to get out. They eventually have a strike exchange, which Maya gets the better of. Eventually, Konami gets kicked. She goes to the outside. The Konami hits a German suplex and a brutal head kick combination. Then Maya Fukuda opens back up with strikes, and she throws a lot of her kicks and her strikes that reminded me of Arisa Hoshinki. So, anytime I can drop that name on this podcast, it always puts a smile on my face. However, Konami's able to hit another German suplex and then locks Maya in an Achilles lock for the tap out. I thought this was terrific. If I'm going to rate it, again, I'm going to rate it on a shoot style wrestling match, I would have given it 4 stars. I think this was terrific. I would love to see Konami back in Bloodsport again. They mentioned Rana Yugami, Shuri, yes, please, in Bloodsport. Find out about a day or two after. And I knew nothing about Maya Fukuda other than the fact that I didn't know until they said it. Again, she was trained by Kiyoshi Tamura. Again, an absolute legend in Japanese mixed martial arts. That, again, she blew me away. I found out about a day or two later that Maya Fukuda is a current freelancer. She's not under any contract with any wrestling company. So I would love to see her come over to Stardom and or Marigold, because I would love to see more of her style, the shoot style that she does in professional wrestling. But yeah, partner, if you get a chance, definitely check this match out. And I know you're extremely pressed for time, but the entire show was terrific. And it was really cool just to see that style of pro wrestling in Sumo Hall.
I do love the fact that you led with, I know everyone's seen that picture of John Moxley covered in blood, and I was like, you are going to have to be far more specific, because he is the modern day Ric Flair. He will bleed at the drop of a hat. He's probably bleeding now. I don't know where he is, but I imagine he's bleeding now. But yes, I will be checking that show out, and I've seen a lot of people actually who've seen the match say Fukuda impressed, said that Konami looked really, really good as well. And looked like Konami was really in her element in this sort of style and this sort of environment. So that was really good to hear as well. I'd like to see some more of that. Maybe Fukuda in God's Eye, because apparently they are recruiting, as we shall be talking about slightly later. Obviously, we're going to be talking a little bit about the 2 shows that Stardom have run this weekend, back-to-back shows on Friday and Saturday. New Blood 13 and the Conversion pay-per-view. But we'll start with the New Blood show that ran live on YouTube, as has been the case for all these shows that ran on Friday the 21st of June, the first New Blood of 2024, and the first New Blood in about 6 months, I believe, as it was late December, New Blood 12. This one, New Blood 13, emanated from Tokyo Pier Hall and drew a crowd of 224 people, which is the lowest of all 15 shows run under the New Blood banner so far. Now, I think there's a couple of things that you can attribute to this. The one for me, Matt, is the fact that the card for this show was really, really late coming out. We knew that we were going to get what would ultimately be the main event, the New Blood Tag Team Championship match between Wingori and Cosmic Angels. We knew we were getting that from fairly early on, but the rest of the card, I don't feel like we got until maybe, a day or so prior. And, if this is a normal Stardom pay-per-view where you're getting Mayu Iwatani, you're getting your Saya Kamitani, your Shiori, your Tam, your Mikey, you're getting these people showing up, then I feel like you can afford to leave the card a little bit longer. However, I feel with a New Blood card where you are inherently focusing on the less tenured wrestlers or the younger wrestlers, you run the risk of not being able to draw a crowd on name value alone. And I think this was a reminder of this, because the card itself was really, really good. And all of the matches, even though there was only 5, all of the matches were really, really good. Especially those final 3 matches were really worth your time. But I think they did suffer ultimately by waiting too long to release the card. Am I out of line for thinking that, Matt, or do you think it was just a case of people had other things to do, shall we say?
Rob, call me crazy. You're going to anyway. But this building looked like it was packed, but it was small. I didn't see many empty seats, but at the same time, it looked like it was a really, really small venue. Do you know if this was a sellout or close to be a sellout? Because that's what you have a really good point. And I know me and you were talking back and forth. I was like, they finally released the New Blood card, and like Tomoka Inaba's on it. I'm like, Tomoka Inaba's a really big star in Joshi over the last 2 years. You figured you would want to announce that at least a week in advance. So I see your point there. But at the same time, this venue looked really, really small. And I don't think you can pack more than 250 people in this building.
No, it was released, I believe, the Monday or the Tuesday. In terms of the venue, it definitely wasn't a sellout. I don't think it's the first time they've run Tokyo Nuclear Hall. In fact, no, it isn't. It isn't. They ran New Blood 2 there, which was main evented by Mina Shirakawa, Nunagi Sayaka, and Horikuru Misaki versus Starlight Kid Ruaka and Rina back in 2022, and they drew 338 people to that show. So not only not a sellout, but quite substantially not a sellout. But yeah, I think it is more a case of, people view these shows as, ones with perhaps lesser stakes, no red belt matches, no white belt matches. This one, of course, had no Future of Stardom Championship match on it either, which is obvious for the reasons we'll get into in a moment. But I think, obviously, unfortunately, the attendance suffered. I think as well, it needs to be beared in mind that this was free on YouTube. So if times are tough and you don't want to go out and spend money to go watch live wrestling, if a show is free on YouTube, you're going to watch it free on YouTube. Either way, regardless or irrespective, should I say, of the attendance, I thought this show was still a really, really, really solid show, Matt.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, 5 hours. 5 hours. I'm all about 5 hours of Stardom. But no, 5 matches. It went by really, really quick. And nothing outstayed its welcome. And it's really nice to see some of these wrestlers getting the time to really tell their stories. Obviously, the main event is where the big match was. But I thought all 5 of these matches were terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll just read through the results then. So match 1 saw Meisera defeat Rian with a drop kick in 9 minutes and 7 seconds. Match 2, as Matt mentioned, saw the returning Tomoka Inaba for her first Stardom match in nearly a year, defeating Rani Yagami with the fantastically named one-hit kill Tomoka kick in 7 minutes and 46 seconds. Match 3, Hanako versus Ice Ribbon Seren, ended in a time limit draw of 15 minutes. Your semi-main event and the longest match on the card saw Rina and Azusa Inaba defeat the Queen's Quest team of Hina and Miyu Amasaki, with Rina pinning Hina with the Pink Devil in 15 minutes and 20 seconds. And then in your main event, the New Blood Tag Team Championships were successfully defended by the second champions Wingori, Hanan and Sairida defeating the challengers Aya Sakura and Sayaka Kurora, with Saida picking up the pin with a lariat in just 12 minutes and 39 seconds. So obviously, Matt, we are going to talk about the main event because I thought the main event was fantastic. Easily Sayaka Kurora and Aya Sakura's best matches in Stardom. Thought they gelled phenomenally well as a team and thought Wingori gave them a tremendous amount without making it unbelievable. I thought the balance was struck really well in this match. But tell me, what did you think? We're going to go to the middle of the card to start off with, which is a very strange place to start, but that's where we're going. Hanako versus Saren. What did you think of Saren, and what did you think of Hanako's performance as well? As I feel that we spend a lot of time talking about the progress of rookies, how someone like Miyu Amasaki is progressing tremendously. Rani Yagami, we spend a lot of time talking about, but I don't feel like we spend a lot of time talking about Hanako. And that's not necessarily fair because I feel like she is another person who is progressing at a tremendous rate.
Yeah, Hanako's really terrific. I'm really liking what her and Walker are doing as a tag team. Obviously, Walker's been out a little bit with an injury, but we did see her at the end of this show. Obviously, we'll get into that with a little post-match angle. Again, me being a tag team wrestler, me having love for tag team wrestling as much as I do. So a lot of tag teams I'm seeing really gelling in Stardom, and I'm wondering, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself because we have the 5-star Grand Prix coming up, but I'm wondering what that Goddess tournament is going to look like in the fall. And I would love to see Hanako and Waka in that tournament. We know they're not going to get a lot of wins, but I think they'll really gel together as a team. And I think that's where Hanako, her strength is right now, is her and Waka just building themselves up as a tag team. I mean, you look at everybody that we have in EXV. Mina, obviously main eventer. She's going to be wrestling in front of about 10,000 people this weekend at Forbidden Door, and has been seen on TV in front of 600, 700,000 people, over the cable system. Micah, obviously the World of Stardom champion, phenomenal champion. Xena, after this show that we're going to talk about at the conversion show, she's now a main eventer. Nobody can take that away from her. So Hanako, really her place in EXV, I think, is just being the dominant force in these multi-person tag matches. And then once Waka gets healthy, just gel her and Waka, just have them teaming up on a lot of these Stardom World shows, very much like we've seen with Aya and Saka Kurora I think Hanako's really fantastic. She offers something different to anybody else that's really in Stardom. I thought she was great. Sarin, I knew nothing of. I did know that this match went to a 15-minute time limit draw because I didn't watch this until maybe about 5 or 6 hours after it aired. I'm like, that's weird. They're going to, Hanako basically someone that's kind of a rookie and somebody I've never seen before that's not familiar with the, with someone that's really just familiar with the Stardom product. But I thought this match was great. I had it 3.5 stars. I thought I thought she had a very bubbly personality, would have fit in perfect with the Cosmic Angels, but obviously they don't need anybody else if that's the way they go. But I thought her stuff was really good. I liked how she used Hanako's size against her, like with the camel clutches and just basically using her high speed, high style offense. She reminded me a lot of Riho. I got a lot of Riho vibes, like high speed champion Riho and like first year AEW Riho and Sarin, which is it's a really good asset to have. I thought she was really good. And again, Hanako did a great job basically using her size against the smaller opponent. Again, I thought this was really good. It's one of the reasons why I really like the New Blood shows is because we see new talent come over from other promotions that get a little shot in the arm of basically Stardom like that is New Blood. And it's something that the Brats and Stardom could look for and be like, okay, maybe that's somebody we may sign in 6 months, a year, year and a half. So I thought she was really good, and I would love to see her back in Stardom.
Yeah, I thought she did a tremendous job, and that's unsurprising. We're a very positive podcast, but I thought she did a very good job. And again, I think Hanako is becoming a really reliable hand. And you're right, she's in the hottest faction in Stardom right now. You've got Micah, who's the World of Stardom champion, Mina, who you've already said is a bona fide main eventer, the international star. As we talk, she's going to be in a huge match for AEW at Forbidden Door against Toni Storm. And then, of course, on top of that, he just had Xena, who's main evented her first Stardom pay-per-view and absolutely knocked it out of the park. So you are understandably seeing her knocked down a peg or two in this faction. However, I feel like she is creating her own little niche, and I think you're absolutely right. Her team with Waka Tsukiyama, when Waka does return at the end of this month, which is the current prognosis for that return, I think they are going to do very, very well. And it wouldn't surprise me if they are the ones that ultimately dethrone Wing Gory in the end. I just want a little bit of a shout out to Rena before we talk about this semi-main event. Rena, as of yesterday at the time of recording, became the longest reigning Future of Stardom champion. Her reign currently sits at 411 days. She's eclipsed Utami's reign of 409 days and is now clear as the longest reigning Future of Stardom champion, and is just one away from tying the most successful title defenses with that belt, with that match being scheduled for this weekend's Korakuen Hall event against Diana's Nanami. So congratulations to Rena, incredible achievement, and I can't think of many people more deserving. And then on top of that, her and Azusa Inaba had a really, really entertaining match against Hina and Miwa Masaki. And again, speaking of someone that we don't talk a lot about, I know she's been out for 4 or 5 months with injury, but I think Hina was a real bright point in this match, Matt.
Yeah, she was great here, and she was great in that the Queen's Quest versus Oedo Tai elimination match for what they gave her. Obviously, the focus in that match was on Saya, Momo, Azumi, Tora, yada, yada, yada. But I thought she was great here, but we've kind of noticed before Hina's injury that they were building up Hina to a Hina Rena Future Stardom Championship match. And this is like the second or third time in a row that Rena has pinned Hina. So it's kind of like, where are they going with it? And then they rectified it on the next day that maybe somewhere down the line we do get the two sisters in a Future Stardom Championship match. Yeah, but I've been singing Hina's praises since probably March. It really seems like she is vastly improving. Obviously, Hanan, out of the sisters, she's the big star. Rena isn't as far behind Hanan as a lot of people think. Rena's fantastic. She's really good. She's completely different than the other sisters because she's the heel. She plays the bratty heel. She's really good on the mic. She does a great job antagonizing the crowd. And Hina's coming a long way as well. She really, really is. It's going to be interesting to see where she goes. Again, we'll get into that later because I have some theories. But I thought she was terrific here. I thought she gelled really well with Miyu. Usually Miyu's gelling really well with, obviously, the Zumi as part of O2 line and Saya Kamitani, and then Utami when she was here because Saya and Utami are constant main eventers. But I thought they were great here. Azusa Inaba, she's terrific. Her style fits in really well with the Oedo Tai. Again, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, these two are a tag team in the Goddess tournament, or they're just a tag team maybe they'll put together on some shows that may give them a run at the New Blood belt, or maybe even a run at FWC. That's something I wouldn't say no to. But I thought Rita and Azusa worked really well here. I thought the match was terrific. The fact that they gave him 15 minutes, they probably wouldn't give that to these four wrestlers. No offense, if it was on a Stardom proper show, because that goes to the Tams, the Mayus, the Sherrys. But I thought it was really good. I had it 3.5 stars, and Rena just she's keeping on racking up the wins here this year, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. I am in complete agreement with you. The one thing that I don't like about Goddess of Stardom Tag League is that we mix the teams up. When you've got the tag division, which, we've seen, especially over the last 3 months, FWC, O2 line, Crazy Star, and now the likes of Rena and Azusa and Naba, you've got a very strong tag division. Don't then mix it up in the Goddess of Stardom Tag League. Let these tag teams go, because you've seen when they are allowed to go just how far they can take the division. And I'd argue at the moment that Goddess of Stardom tag team division is the strongest it's ever been, as proved by the fact that FWC just keep pumping out incredible matches, and that's not even taking into account the fantastic team that is Wingori. Miyu Amasaki, every time I see her, I see improvement, and she's very similar in the mold to Hazuki, who it doesn't matter if it's a opening 2-minute 3-way or whether it's a main event of a Corrigan Hall show. She will give you absolutely everything, and she's really, really starting to come good. And again, she was a big, big bright spark in this match, as was everyone, but Miyu Amasaki's flame, if you like, at the moment, her spark is really, really obvious, and I'm a big, big fan of Miyu Amasaki. The main event, this was absolutely fantastic. Sub 13 minutes, didn't need to go any longer. And Aya Sakura and Sayaka Kurora, yes, we knew they weren't winning. Yes, we knew Wingori were probably going to steamroller them in the main event, because in terms of standing at the moment, they're very much chalk and cheese in terms of the Stardom roster. However, again, for what feels like the billionth time this week, it's not if you lose, it's how you lose. And Aya Sakura and Sayaka Kurora come out of this match so much better off than they did going in, because they stepped up to who are a fantastic tag team, fantastic individual wrestlers in Hanan and Sayarida, but also a fantastic, well-oiled team, and did a fantastic job. And actually, despite Hanan and Sayarida being incredibly uber baby faces, they actually had me chanting for them and getting really, really behind them, which I think is a great achievement in just under 13 minutes, Matt.
Yeah, you'll probably agree with me when I say this. Out of these 5 matches with all these great wrestlers, nobody's stock went up any more than Aya and Sayaka Kurora. Again, even with the loss, considering the fact they were able to hang with Wingori, not just Wingori, but the New Blood champions, the team that had a crack the very next night at the at FWC, the Goddess champions. And again, Wingori, who Saeed is absolutely crushing it as a singles competitor. Hanan just coming off the Cinderella win and coming ever so close to dethroning Soriano. The fact that these two were able to keep up with Hanan and Saeed, and obviously give Hanan and Saeed credit. They brought up Aya and Sayaka when they needed to. They gave them enough in the match that they looked like credible threats to dethrone them for the New Blood Championship. Really good stuff. I mean, Aya was just fantastic here with the kick exchanges, the stuff that she had going on with Hana. Sayaka Kurora, it seemed like she was on a completely another level. Like, she understood, like, this is a big moment for me early in my career to main event this show that's free on YouTube, on a YouTube channel that has well over 1 million subscribers. And she went all out. She might have been the MVP of this entire show. She really showed us what her future can be in Stardom and professional wrestling, and I'm so excited for it. Again, let's just keep teaming these two girls up from Cosmic Angels and Aya and Sayaka, because they are absolutely terrific. So, yeah, this was a great match. Wingori, low-key, top 4 or 5 tag team of the year for me in all of wrestling. I don't think there's a team that I don't think they're a team that's getting enough love when we talk about the best tag teams in wrestling this year. I think it's a team that we need to talk more and more about. And again, we will in a moment. when we talk about their match with FWC from the pay-per-view on the 22nd. I had this at 4 stars. I love this. If they would have run this back tomorrow, I'd be front and center for it. I thought it was terrific. And again, Aya and Sayaka, even with the loss, their stock went up so much in my eyes, my friend.
I think the problem that we have with Aya Sakura and Sayaka Kurora is the problem that we have with any rookie, and that is that we see them at the moment as nothing more than pin eaters, and it seems like that stock in those two wrestlers is exacerbated by the fact that they are in a faction with Tam Nakano, who's not going to be eating a pinfall, Natsupoi, who very rarely eats a pinfall, Saori Anou, who, aside from this white belt loss, spoilers, and the conversion, isn't eating a pinfall, which means that you have to share the pinfalls out between these two and occasionally Yuna Mizumori. And I think because we are so used to seeing them eat the pinfall, it's the Waka Tsukiyama effect, apart from the fact that Waka had that storyline going. That's the issue that we have. However, they are getting better. They are gelling better as a team. And if maybe we are packaging them as a tag team, I think that offers something a little bit different to other rookies on the Stardom roster. Fantastic match. I gave it 4 stars. I think Wingori go from strength to strength. I think both Hanan and Sayurida are getting the love they deserve. Sayurida especially, who flies so much under the radar in terms of praise, and as big little long time listeners of this podcast will know, we are huge fans of Sayurida, and she's finally getting the praise she deserves and finally getting the spotlight she deserves, which is amazing. Post match then, we did have a couple of challenges come out. It did appear briefly that we were going to get Rina and Azusa Inaba challenging for these belts. However, Hanako and Waka Tsukiyama then came out, who I believe Wingori have already beaten for the belts. They'd have back in March of 2024, but they came out for a rematch, and then poor Saren of Ice Ribbon was there going, well, I wanted to fight for the belts, but I don't have a partner. But she did promise to find a partner if she was given the opportunity. So instead of just one team, we have the potential of 3 teams vying for Wingori's New Blood Tag Team Championships, which is extremely exciting. Of those 3 teams, Matt, I think I know the answer, but of these 3 teams, who are you most excited to see challenging Wingori next, and why is it Rina and Azusa Inaba?
Oh, it's the Killer Bees, buddy. It's the Killer Bees.
Always the Killer Bees. Always.
There you go. Yeah, Azusa Inaba and Rina. Rina has really great chemistry with Hanan. Azusa Inaba, I would love to see her go strike for strike with Saida. Again, Azusa and Rina are gelling really well as a team, considering the fact they've only had a handful of matches as a tag team, but they looked really good in the match before. And again, it's really good chemistry. What was the last 2 things that you saw? Rina and Azusa Inaba in a very clear win over Heen and Miyu Amasaki, and the next thing was Wingori in a very clear win in an excellent match against the Cosmic Angels team of Aya and Sayaka. So it's like you kind of had those 2 things back to back. I think that's the way that they should go. Either way works. It's Wingori defending the New Blood Championship. Yes, please give us more Wingori as a tag team in big spotlight matches. But I think Rina and Azusa Inaba would be the way to go.
And we've sung the praise of both the Inaba sisters a significant amount over the last couple of months. It is worth noting that Azusa in particular is still very young into her career. She didn't debut until March of last year, and she's only 16. So an incredible amount of upside from Azusa. And that's not just because of the hilarious moment where she called Hanako and Waka Tsukiyama old fogies or old crappies or whatever she called them, which really made me giggle. But it's nice to see Waka Tsukiyama back in the Stardom fold, obviously recovering from that operation she had on a hernia, I believe it was. Before we head over to the conversion and talk about that, Matt, very, very frank question. Is there a place for the Stardom New Blood shows in the Stardom calendar? And the reason I ask this is if you solely look at the attendance, okay, and I know that's not always the metric that's perhaps the best to look at, but that's the one I'm choosing. Since New Blood Premium, with the exception of New Blood 10, there has been a steady decline in attendance, to the point where the last 3 shows have been the least attended New Blood shows. So you go from 734 in New Blood Premium at Yokohama all the way down to 224 here at Tokyo New Pier Hall. Do you think this is indicative of people who have lost interest in the New Blood concept, or do you think it's just a case of Stardom needing to tweak marketing and the way they are packaging these New Blood shows? Or do you think this is all just a little bit of a panic over nothing, shall we say?
A little bit of everything there, my friend. I mean, they can tweak it a little bit, maybe put more stars on it. I mean, I don't mean Hazuki, Saeed, Hanan, but I mean, maybe. But we've seen a New Blood before where when Rana Yugami debuted and Sayaka Kurora debuted, they wrestled Saya Kamitani and Shiri. You know, bring them in. And maybe instead of doing a show once every 2-3 months, maybe do a show every 5-6 weeks. And again, free on YouTube's great. Like maybe have it more consistent where it's just like, I mean, I know independent promoters that will try to run every month and it's like, oh, we can't because we can't get a ring or this, that, and the other thing. And then, well, geez, I had 500 in January. My next show I ran in April, I had 200. Where'd those 300 people go? You're not running consistent. You don't have a consistent product going. So I think that's one thing. I think maybe if they were doing a show every maybe 4 to 6 weeks, I think that would help. I think, again, throw a Shiri in there. You know, if have Shiri and Rana Yugami teamed up to go up against an Ice Ribbon team or to go up against Waka and Hanako, you know, bring one of your main eventers in, you know, somebody that's in the red belt scene or the white belt scene, bring them in for a match. And you'll probably see ticket sales up. So I think it's a little bit of everything. I think it may be a little panic over nothing. I think they need to run more consistent, have one or two big stars on these shows. That's not going to hurt either. And then I like the idea that it's before a pay-per-view. So us as fans, I thought this was great. You know, this was terrific because we had this loaded pay-per-view that I absolutely loved. And then the day before, we had this really nice free show that had a lot of the Stardom talent on there and a lot of the Stardom talent that's kind of like the middle of the card, like the younger talent, as well as the Inaba sisters. So I'm all for the New Blood concept, but I think the main 2 things to draw tickets is throw some of your stars on there, again, 1 or 2, and then have these in a more consistent basis. Again, maybe once every 4 to 6 weeks.
Let's move on then to the conversion.
Real quick, brother. What do you think of Rana Yugami and Tomoka Inaba?
Really enjoyed it. I meant to ask you about that and then just got completely sidetracked. I know that this was the match actually that I think, aside from the main event, you were most looking forward to. So I believe the better question is, Matt, what did you think of this and what did you think of the return of Tomoka Inaba to the Stardom fold?
I think she was great. I thought the match was too short. It could have went 15 minutes and I still thought it was too short. We say every week on the show how much we're impressed by Rana Yugami. And consider the fact that Tomoka Inaba, when she left, she was kind of a member of God's Eye. If you remember her and Shuri in the 2022 Goddess of Stardom tournament, they were Karate Brave, and they were terrific. Great matches with Meltier, great matches with Aphrodite. But it really seems like they're trying to, if Tomoka Inaba is going to be wrestling in Stardom a little bit more, which it looks like she's going to be, it looks like they're going to team her and Rana Yugami up because it looks like Shuri and Konami are doing their thing as a tag team, which I'm all for. But it really looked like there was a lot of respect, and per some of the backstage comments, it looked like they're going to have Rana and Tomoka teaming up as a team, which I am all for because I can just see the kick sandwiches that they're going to be giving to their poor opponents. A good match. I had it 3.5 stars. I wish it went a little bit longer, but it looks like we're going to be building towards a Rana and a Tomoka team.
Which I'm all for. I'm all for because I feel like both women complement each other very well, as we saw in this singles match. And I think Rana will get a lot of rub off of teaming with Tomoka as well. So here we are, the conversion. As I mentioned at the intro of the podcast, perhaps the most landscape shifting pay-per-view Stardom have run perhaps ever. And I don't say that lightly. Almost exactly a year to the day since Stardom Sunshine, where we had that iconic moment of Saya Kamitani and Utami Hayashishita atop the cage. I bring that up for absolutely no reason. Same venue, same month, same matchup, But again, I bring it up for absolutely no reason. The 22nd of June, 2024, The Conversion, Yoyogi National Gymnasium number 2, 1,654 people in attendance, which isn't bad at all considering the poor run of attendances that Stardom have had recently. It's not their highest attendance at the venue. Obviously, they got 1,919 in for the opening day of the Triangle Derby in 2023, which is Stardom's highest attendance at this show. They also drew slightly more to Stardom Sunshine, 1,715. But of the 5 shows that Stardom have run at this venue, this is smack dab in the middle in 3rd place. So not bad at all. And when you're comparing to other companies that have run this venue, New Japan ran this venue not so long ago for one of their best of the Super Junior shows, and this outdrew it with the New Japan show drawing 1,520. So I think, Matt, with the attendances that we spoke about over the last couple of weeks about how, attendances were on the decline. It was there for everyone to see. A healthy attendance number like this will be music to Stardom's ears.
Not only that, but the crowd was into everything other than maybe the first 7 or 8 minutes of the Wonder of Stardom Championship match, which we kind of figured, whatever which way the booking went, that poor match was going to be in trouble. But because of how good the match was and how good Mika and Soriano are, they got ramped up towards the end, and then the main event blew it out of the water. But they were into everything, and we make mention. It's like these Stardom shows are terrific, regardless if they're selling out Korakuen Hall or they're only doing 600 or 700 people in Korakuen Hall. The Stardom shows are great, but 90% of the time, the audience, I don't know if it's a combination of the audience just not being into it or the audience not mic'd properly. Like, we don't know because we're not there. I'm like, these matches are great. These shows are terrific. Like, how come everybody's quiet? They were into everything from the pre-show all the way up into the main event. This crowd was terrific. And yeah, there was the 1,600 people. I thought it was a really, really healthy number considering the fact that they had some really healthy numbers the week prior. So it really seems like Stardom is on the upswing as far as attendance numbers goes. And as we're getting into the summer months with the 5-Star Grand Prix and those 2 back-to-back shows coming up at the end of July. So fingers, and then obviously we'll get into it at the very, very end. The Korakuen Hall show coming up this weekend is absolutely loaded. We've been made mention that Korakuen Hall needs something special, and we are getting something special. But this show was absolutely fantastic. And again, the crowd was engaged from match 1 into the final bell.
Do you think that The Conversion will go down as the show with the best pre-show on YouTube in Stardom history? Because yes, we had Fukigen Death and Rian, which lasted a shade over 4 minutes, and obviously I'll go into the results a little bit more in a moment, but we also had FWC versus Wingori and Starlight Kid versus Mei Seira in a singles contest. Both were afforded a significant amount of time. The Goddess of Stardom title match going nearly 20 minutes, and Starlight Kid and Mei Seira getting almost 14. Giving them away for free as well, fantastic way of getting people invested in the pay-per-view, because both these matches, especially that tag match we're going to be talking about in a moment, brilliant matches, Matt.
Yeah, this is genius booking on, basically Stardom saying, hey, let's give this in the front. The middle, everything was solid. And then the end between the Queen's Quest White Belt tie match, the white belt and red belt match were all fantastic. And when they were running down the card, I was like, why is the Goddess match first on the main show? And then somebody tipped me off and said, no, they gave this free away on YouTube. I'm like, oh my God, that's genius. Because if you're, again, they have well over 1 million subscribers to YouTube. So if you're not sure if you're going to get this pay-per-view, if you're going to wait until it's the 2 or 3 days until it's on Stardom World, which I know a lot of people do because there's a lot of Stardom shows and just a lot of wrestling pay-per-views in general to purchase, and everybody's dollars are already stretched thin to begin with. You're giving again, a phenomenal tag match. You're giving that, and then Starlight Kid and Mei Seira, 2 different styles matches, but 2 must-see matches. You're like, yep, basically here it is, almost as a thank you. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then if you like what you see, for $7 a month, you can go to Stardom World. Or if you want to see the rest of this fantastic show, I don't know how they would get it across, but maybe if they put a link in the description box to the pay-per-view or something like that, like you can see the rest of the show for X amount of dollars by clicking the link here. Maybe that's one way to go in the future. But regardless, you're like, holy geez, this show started out with a bang, still was really good in the middle, And considering the fact one of the middle matches, we got 2 Mayus. So again, if you didn't like the show on a show that had 2 Mayus, I don't know what to tell you. But then, those last 3 matches were really, really something special. But yeah, to answer your question, brother, yeah, this is like the best free wrestling, like maybe in the history of YouTube that you'll ever get.
So, just talking about the pre-show then, Fuki Can Death defeating Rian in 4 minutes and 33 seconds with the O'Connor roll. It was there, I think, is the best way of describing the match. It was fine, nothing blow away. Fuki Can Death got a shtick in. I thought Rian reacted well, did what she needed to do, but I'm sure Rian will have better matches in her career. And Fuki Can Death is Fuki Can Death. What can I say, Matt Turner?
Technically, this might have been a number 1 contender's high-speed championship match, buddy.
Maybe. I don't. I think I might be stretching it slightly. I don't think Rian bless. Do you know what? No, I'm feeling positive. I am going to give that to you. Do you know what? Yes, it was. It was an unofficial high-speed championship number 1 contendership match with which after 4.5 minutes of grueling high-speed action, Fuki Can Death managed to crawl her way to victory. But yeah, it was. If you've seen one Fuki Can Death comedy match, it was pretty much this match. Rian did well. Rian was fine. But ultimately, you aren't missing much if you skipped this match, Matt, did you?
No, I mean, you know what it was going to be. I figured this would be on the pre-show when I did my review, but I didn't realize what else they were giving us afterwards.
No, exactly. And that, of course, was the FWC team, Fukuoka Double Crazy, of Hazuki and Koguma, defending successfully for the second time their Goddesses of Stardom championships against the challengers Wingori, Hanan and Saya Ida. Koguma pinning Saya Ida after a diving body press in 19 minutes and 23 seconds. Goodness gracious me. There was some exchanges in this match, Matt, where there was this, and then there was Xena and Micah, where I just found myself laughing. And the reason I found myself laughing was because of some of the brutality of some of the strikes. Hazuki and Hanan, where at one point Hazuki was lighting Hanan up with forearms, and then apparently not happy with how much pain she was causing, spun Hanan round and then started delivering the exact same to the back of her neck. You then got Saya Ida literally just destroying Hazuki with chops to the point where Hazuki's trying to front. She's got her hands behind her back, trying to be all tough, and you can just see her being ground down to the mat. And I don't know, whoever follows Hazuki on social media, you will have seen the absolute mess of her chest that Saya Ida has made. Not the biggest mess of someone's chest that was made on this pay-per-view. Buddy Howdy, we'll talk about that in a moment. But this match had everything that I loved about tag team wrestling. All 4 women at the absolute apex of their game, given enough time to build a phenomenal story. There is not a team in the world, irrespective of gender, who touches Fukuoka Double Crazy at the moment, Matt.
They're the best tag team in all of wrestling, and it really looked like the end of last year and the first quarter of this year. It really seemed like the team that was on another level from everybody was Aphrodite. Obviously, Utami leaves to go to Marigold. I'm like, who's going to step up? Crazy Star does. You're like, you can make a mention for Crazy Star. And now FWC is just like, no, you know what? We're the best tag team in wrestling. This is the best Suzuki's ever been. Obviously, we loved her high-speed championship run back a handful of years ago. Since she came back to the company in 2021, she's been nothing but lights out. And we were literally to the point in Philadelphia, we told Mr. Okada, Hazuki wipeout run? Like, we were literally campaigning as if Hazuki is part of our families. Like, give her a wipeout run. And I'm like, you know what, let's hold on. This white belt scene is very packed. They got a really cool story, interesting story going on with that, which we'll get into. Let's hold off and let's give this FWC a proper time to breathe, because when they had their 2 title runs in 2022, it was like start, stop, and then Hazuki had that phenomenal run in the 5-star Grand Prix and almost won the whole thing. So it's like, I would love to see a proper 5, 6, 7, 8 month FWC championship run, because this is the best Hazuki's ever been. Again, I've christened Hazuki the wrestling machine. She is the wrestling machine. Koguma is, she does the comedy stick great when it's appropriate, but when she teams with Hazuki in these title matches, it is full on board Koguma. This is the best she's ever been as well. These 2 gelling as a team. All right, yeah, you're absolutely right, partner. They are the best tag team in all of wrestling. No disrespect to the Young Bucks, FTR, Crazy Star, the Killer Bees, whoever, Colossal Connection, whoever. This is the best tag team in all of wrestling, in my opinion, and it's not even close. These two are on a completely different level, and this match had everything. You started out with really good technical wrestling with Hana and Koguma, and then we get some fast-paced 2 counts with Hazuki and Saya Ida, even the point where Saya Ida, we saw in her high-speed match with Saya Kamitani, is able to keep up with the former high-speed champion in Hazuki with those fast 2 counts. And then, yeah, you mentioned the strikes and the brutality. And then it went up to a completely different level when we had chop and forearm fest with Saya Ida and Hazuki. And then we get into the dives, and then we get the and then we start building towards the finish with everybody hitting big move after big move after big move. And then Saya Ida almost steals one with the Itabashi with a 2.99. I thought that was great. The crowd is really rallying behind. It was almost 60-40. Like, they were cheering for both teams because they're both babyface teams and they're both fantastic. But it was almost 60-40 Wingori versus FWC. I think basically because maybe they had an opportunity to see new champions, especially after that Itabashi for the 2.999. I didn't think there was a chance that Wingori was winning the tag belts, because clearly it's not that they're not talented enough, but FWC is the hot hand, and it's easy booking thing to keep the hot hand going. But they got me for a second there. I thought Saida was going to steal one. We get that insane assisted code breaker with basically Koguma has Hanan up for the almost like flapjack, and then Saida up like the flapjack, and then Hazuki comes off the top rope with just this insane code breaker. Hazuki hits the brainbuster to Saida, and then this was great. So you see Koguma going up to the top rope. You see it on the corner of your eye. So you're like, okay, this is FWC's tag finisher. Is Hazuki hits the brainbuster and Saida hits the body press, right? Like, that's their move. That's their 1-2 punch combo for their tag finisher, and I love it. So it's like, okay, you're building towards the finish. You know this is the finish because the crowd's at the right time. You're about 19 minutes in. This is the perfect time to end the match. So you see Saida hitting the brainbuster, and Koguma stands on the top rope and waits. She waits for Hazuki to hit Hanan with the suicide dive to take Hanan out, and then she does the body press. So not only did this match peak at the perfect time, Rob, not only was the crowd psychology absolutely perfect, and they had time, again, almost 20 minutes to tell their story, but the finish of this match was Hazuki brainbuster. Pause, wait a few seconds. Hazuki suicide dive. Pause, let it register. Wait a few seconds. Koguma top rope body splash. 1, 2, 3. So you had that 3-hit combo at the end of a darn near perfect match. I cannot wait to go back and watch this. I may watch this back tonight. 4.5 stars for me. Maybe as far as an actual pay-per-view opener, I don't know of a better pay-per-view opener in the history of Stardom that's better than this one. Maybe there is one out there. I don't know. Maybe it's just recency bias. Again, 4.5 stars from 2 of the best tag teams in all of wrestling. And you made mention, FWC is the best tag team in all of wrestling. Completely agree. There is not a wrestling company that touches Stardom's tag team division right now. Nobody's even close.
Isn't it weird how we all panicked when Utami left because we thought the gaping hole in terms of the tag division that Aphrodite would leave? We were like, well, who's going to step up? And if anything, exactly. Absolutely everyone on the roster has taken it as a personal challenge to step up. And you're absolutely right, because even though FWC have put on tag matches of the year with Crazy Star, with O2 Line, and now with Wingori, they then threw out the challenge for the upcoming Korakuen Hall show for Syuri and Konami. So not seemingly resting on their laurels, and they doubled down on that with the post-match backstage, where Koguma can't talk at this point. I don't know what has happened to her throat, whether this is just the effects of Sayurida's chops or what, but she can't talk properly, and Hazuki is talking for her and saying there's so much more that we want to do, and they really do seem determined to cement themselves as the pinnacle of Stardom's tag division. And you know what? If this is an indication of where we're going with this tag division, I am so there for it. I really, really am. So yeah, Matt, just before I move on, we're getting, just to repeat, and just so that everyone understands this, we are getting Hazuki and Koguma versus Syuri and Konami for the Goddesses of Stardom titles this Saturday at Korakuen Hall, live on Stardom World. Tell me that that's not worth your subscription fee, Matt Turner.
That is, again, where I get all my and I say this as a joke, but I really mean it. So that where I get all my Stardom news is from Rob Goodwin on the Stardom Cast. So is that official? Is that going to be live on Stardom World, not an extra pay-per-view, but just for your subscription service?
It is live and free if you have Stardom World. Yes.
Folks, again, this show we're talking about right now, the conversion just got released on Stardom World. For $7, you get this show, all the phenomenal stuff Stardom's done over the last 13 years, plus this show coming up. Again, I know we have a lot of listeners that listen to us that only subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we thank you, and I understand that. But you're talking like $1.40 a week for Suzu Suzuki and Konami taking on Hazuki and Koguma. Like, are you kidding me? Like, three of the hardest hitters, and then just a really, really underrated wrestler in Koguma who gels with Hazuki, maybe, again, the tag team of the year. Like, holy jeez. Again, you can literally put anything else on that card, which the card looks really good, and I am all for it. Like, yeah, that tag match. Again, we mentioned whenever we do the last handful of Corkin shows, like, why is the attendance low? It doesn't take a genius to figure it out. You need something special. We have not got anything special on the last 2 or 3 Corkin shows, as good as they are. And this one is something special. I would not be shocked if this one's around 900 to 1,000 people are packed in Corkin Hall this weekend, partner.
No, completely agree. I can see this Korakuen doing a good number. Will it touch the 1,000 mark? Hopefully. I think if Stardom are able to follow this pay-per-view up, and I think they will, simply because of A, the 3 title matches, and B, the sheer intrigue of the landscape of Stardom, I think they will draw a decent number to Korakuen, and I think if they do manage to draw 1,000 people, they'll be very happy with that. We finished off the YouTube pre-show, if you will, with the singles match, Starlight Kid defeating May Sarah 13 minutes and 23 seconds, pinning her with the star suplex. And I was ever so pleased with myself because I thought if these two ever tag together, which, spoiler, it looks like we might be getting more of in the future, they can be called SL May rather than SLK. How good is that? I was so proud of myself at 1:30 in the morning whilst I'm trying desperately to catch up with all the wrestling I need to watch. I was very happy with myself.
Brother, I missed it. What was the time on this match?
This was given 13 minutes and 23 seconds.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I forgot to write that down. Yeah, this was great. SLMA, I tell you what, Stardom, they're so fast and so fancy when it comes to some of these names.
I made that up. That wasn't Stardom. That was me.
Oh, look at you, ladies and gentlemen, Rob Goodwin.
I am not letting Stardom take my... I mean, if they want to take my idea, please feel free, Stardom. But, come on, that was me. That was all me.
Well, I just came up with the t-shirt. You ready for it?
Go for it.
On the SL part of the t-shirt, you have Starlight Kid's mask pop up. And then on the M for May, you do that M symbol that May Sarah does on her head.
Love it.
There it is.
There you go.
There it is. Boom, SL May. Hey, may I have another t-shirt? Sure.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Anyway, do continue.
Speaking of love, I absolutely loved this match. This was great. We knew it was going to be great. Again, you have the high-speed style offense of these two wrestlers, two of the best high-speed style wrestlers we have in all of wrestling. Starlight Kid, though, does a great job of starting to break down May Sarah's legs, trying to maybe slow down to go to Starlight Kid's new pace that she's working again. She mentioned about a year or so ago. She's graduated from the high-speed division, but will be using high-speed style offense in her match. I thought some really good stuff here. May Sarah, I love how she uses that drop kick. Very much like how Mayu uses the super kick almost as a defensive move to go into her next style of offense. And she uses it. She used the drop kick like 4 or 5 times in a lot of her matches, and especially this one, but it builds and builds and builds. Then it builds so that just one where it looked like she's being shot out of a cannon. She hits that big drop kick to her opponent's head, which she did here, which I thought was great. May Sarah, too, another thing she's getting great at is her strikes. Her strikes are really, not that they were bad before, but they're really improving. She hits Starlight Kid with the spin kick that absolutely drops her. I think she was inspired by the match prior. I like how Starlight Kid was able to block the shooting star roll up and into a roll up of her own for a 2.9 count. I thought that was great. And then we go to all those fast 2.9 counts back and forth, which I always think is a rib on the referee. Eventually, Starlight Kid gets the advantage on those roll up. She tries for the Black Tiger pile driver, but then May Sarah slips out of that and finally hits the shooting star roll up for a 2.99. I like how we were building towards the finishes only to get stopped and then eventually to go back to it. I always think that's the genius of the Stardom matchmaking. But then when Starlight Kid gets up, she gets drop kicked right into her tiger mask for another 2.9. And then May Sarah goes for the checkmate. However, Starlight Kid slips out of that and then hits not one, but two tiger/star suplexes for the 3 count. 4.25 stars for me, my friend, and we are off to an absolute bang between the number one contenders high-speed championship match we had and then the FWC versus Wingori and this terrific high-speed exhibition style match between Starlight SL May.
Yes, absolutely. SL May. Yeah, I thought this was fantastic. 3.75 stars for me. It was everything you wanted it to be and more. There was a great moment where Starlight Kid flawlessly catches. It might have been a drop kick from May Sarah and transitions it into the Black Tiger leg killer. Absolutely beautiful. These two mesh really, really well. Of course, post-match, then Starlight Kid whispers something into May Sarah's ear, and then May Sarah whispers it to Suzu Suzuki, who is at ringside. So there was rumblings that something might be afoot, but we wouldn't find out what was afoot until later on in the show. But yes, fantastic use of both women as a special singles match. And again, these two are up there as two of the most technically brilliant wrestlers on this roster, and I can't wait to see more from them. We move on then to a tag team match. The Empress Nexus Venus team of Hanako and Mina Shirakawa defeated the Cosmic Angels team of Natsupoi and Yuna Mizumori, with Mina getting the pinfall over Yuna with the glamorous driver Mina in 11 minutes and 17 seconds. Matt, I don't think this was ever in any doubt because Stardom were not going to send Mina all the way to New York on the back of a loss, were they?
No, and I mentioned that in my preview. It would be smart for her to pick up a win here, probably pick up a win over Yuna, which is exactly what happened. Or I thought this match was really good. This is, again, this middle of the card really overachieved. Again, they gave us those two fantastic matches on the YouTube and then ended it with those 3 really banger matches. But the middle of this card really overachieved. Yuna was great here. Stuff with Hanako was terrific. They have that hard-hitting style. And then once Mina and Natsupoi got in there and really started going, I had flashbacks to that fantastic match from last year with Mina Shirakawa defending the Wonder of Stardom Championship against Natsupoi, because that's what we got, a good amount here. I thought it was really good. 11 minutes, perfect time to tell the story. Hanako looked good, Yuna looked good, but they made sure to make sure that the big star in the match was Mina Shirakawa. Again, rightfully so. She's on that big Forbidden Door pay-per-view against Toni Storm this weekend. Again, a really good match to follow up what we've already had, a really good pay-per-view. I had it 3 3/4 stars. I absolutely loved it, and a really good showing for Yuna and Hanako in this match.
Yeah, absolutely. Similar to what you said, both, in fact, all 3 of these mid-card, if you like, tag matches over-delivered, really, in terms of what they were providing. We knew in ring that they would be good, but all of the women in them did really, really well. No stories progressed or anything like that, but I still really enjoyed them as singular sort of matches. I gave this 3.5 stars. Really enjoyed it. I think, again, Hanako did really, really well. Had some really good exchanges very briefly with Natsupoi, and both with Natsupoi and Yuna, should I say. 6-woman tag match followed this. The God's Eye team of Ronnie Agami, Saki Kashima, and the returning Tomoka Inaba defeated the Cosmic Angels team of Aya Sakura, Sayaka Kurora, and Tam Nakano in 11 minutes and 51 seconds. Tomoka Inaba hitting the one-hit Tomoka kill kick, or whatever it's called, before dragging Saki Kashima on top of Sayaka Kurora for the pinfall win. Matt, another victory for Tomoka Inaba.
Most important thing in this match was New Gear Tam.
Absolutely.
New gear, Tam, and obviously Tam, she looked terrific and was great in this match. We mentioned a little bit ago, Aya and Sayaka on the same team, even though it's 6-person. They were great again, gelled phenomenal as a team, getting better all the time, which is always great to see. Tomoka Inaba, again, we mentioned how they're kind of teasing a team with Ronda Yugami. The tag stuff they did here was great, even to the point where they're hitting those stereo penalty kicks and then dragging Saki Kashima's body and they did it not once but twice. They did it once like as a tease for a finish, and then she hits the big penalty kick again, the one shot, one kill. Put that on a t-shirt, please. Tomoka Inaba kick to then drag Saki for the pin. Again, Tam, she did what she needed to do. She played the hits. She didn't need to do what, I mean, it's not a main event match. She comes in, again, new gear. She makes everybody, she basically gives the spotlight over to Aya and Sayaka, which I think is great because they're the ones that need the actual reps in the match. We know Tam is a star. We know she's a main eventer. We know she's terrific. So her placement in this match was really good. It was kind of almost like a makeshift tag match with Aya and Sayaka versus Rana and Tomoka. And hopefully that's a match somewhere we get down the line on maybe a Stardom World show that goes like 13, 14 minutes, or maybe on the next New Blood show. I would have no problem with that. But a really solid match. I had it 3.5 stars. Again, and then again, Saki does her gimmick really well, just playing all the comedy. But for me, the main crux of this match, other than New Gear Tam, was Aya and Sayaka versus Rana and Tomoka Inaba.
It's quite funny, actually, because I've actually written in my notes about how Saki Kashima is that refreshing character in God's Eye who are all the very serious sort of we are fighters. And I think both Tomoka Inaba and Saki Kashima offer something just a slight bit different, but Saki Kashima in particular. And I actually was thinking that Saki made me feel that we needed something else for God's Eye, because I feel like at the moment God's Eye aren't doing a tremendous amount in terms of title pictures. Obviously, we know now that Syuri and Konami are going to be challenging for the tag belts on Saturday. But I was like, we need a little bit of fresh blood in God's Eye. And then obviously what happened with Queen's Quest No Editai happened. So it was as though my thought was answered. But yes, it's another good match. I would argue that if you are pressed for time, because this pay-per-view was long, Matt, by the way. This was a long show.
4.5 hours. Yeah,
it was a long ass show. Not that I'm complaining in any way. It was one of Stardom's best pay-per-views top to bottom in a good long time. I would argue, actually, do you know what? No, I'm going to save that for the end because that can be a debate that we have. But I would argue that this is probably the one match, this and maybe the match before, if you are pressed for time, maybe miss these two out. But in terms of the next match, in terms of over-delivering, this match was fantastic. The Runaway Wrestler Presents Tag Team match, which saw the God's Eye team of Amisori and Syuri, who were cosplaying as Kagetsu and Miho Wakizawa, against the Stars team of Mayu Iwatani and Mayu Iwatani. Obviously, one of the Mayus played by Anna Hirai, who plays Mayu Iwatani in Runaway Wrestler. You had Momo Kogo come out as well, who was dressed as Fuka. All these people playing characters who they play in the film, with the exception of Amisori, who just seemed to really get into the spirit of things, which I'm a big fan of. This went to a 15-minute time limit draw, Matt, and we went from all of the wholesome sort of feelings of sort of going back through Mayu's career and the celebration of this film to what was at the end of the match a really, really good tag team match.
I'm going to tell you right now, I gave this match 4 stars. And some people might be saying, Matt, 4 stars. And here's the reason why I rated it so high. First of all, it was an actually really good tag match.
Exactly.
But this is it was a really good tag match. This is a match that 6 months, 8 months, a year from now, fingers crossed, everything goes well, and we plan on being in Vegas for WrestleMania next year. Me and you were sitting there having a beer and be like, hey, you remember that match where there was 2 Mayus and Sherry dressed up as Kagetsu, and we will remember it like that because it gave you memorable moments. Sometimes you have these matches that are 4.5, 4 3/4 stars matches that were really, really good matches, but because there's so much great wrestling going on, past, present, and future, after 6 months, 8 months, a year, you may forget about it until you start watching. Like, oh, I remember that match. This is a matchup we're going to remember for a long time because, again, not only do we have 2 Mayus, we had Sherry dressed up as Kagetsu from the movie. Well, we had the rubber band spot we haven't seen the rubber band spot since I think maybe the final Kagetsu match. We haven't seen the rubber band spot in, I don't know, 3-4 years. And then Momo Kogo, who we've been seeing her praises a lot on the show for right reasons. Not only is she great in the match, but she's doing her normal routine, like the springboard dropkick and the 180 body splash in a full suit. In a full suit. And then here's something else. You have Shuri, the most badass wrestler in all of Joshi, maybe one of the most badass wrestlers and like legit in all of wrestling. She gets to the top of the rampway and she's having this fight with Mayu. And then she's like, which Mayu do I beat up? And she goes after the wrong Mayu. I was like, oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. And you can tell she's taking care of I forget the actress that plays Mayu, but she looks just like her. And from what I understand, she did a great job in the movie. And I hope that gets a release with subtitles over here in the States sometime soon, because I cannot wait to watch it. But she's a great job taking care of her. You can see she was very gentle with her, but trying to look really fierce. Like puts her in a Boston Crab. Boston Crab is a move that you can have your opponent relatively safe. And you can tell she took care of her. And then when she realizes she has the wrong Mayu, her and actual Mayu have like a mini match from their match of the year candidate from the beginning of the year. And I thought that was really good. Again, all really fun stuff. Again, if you were just to take the gimmick stuff out of it, it probably would have been a 3.5 to 3 3/4 star match, which is still really good rating. But I bumped it up to 4 stars because of how much fun this match was. My only complaint about this entire show, and I'm going to give it now, I have 2 of them. One, this match should have been the buffer in between the 5-on-5 match and the white belt match, just to kind of give us time to calm down and have fun. And the other thing that I'm going to complain about that nobody else is, much as everybody online was complaining about certain things in this show, nobody is complaining about this thing that I felt kind of like, I don't understand this. Suzu Suzuki, the shirt she was wearing was like 4 times too big. That I didn't understand. It looked like almost a dress. I mean, but then again, I'm a merchandising guy. I'm a marketing guy. Maybe she just wanted the full graphic of her new shirt out there, which if that's the reason for it, I applaud you, Suzu Suzuki. But anywho, this match was fun. And again, this match is a match we are going to be talking about for years to come because of just how fun it was. Again, partner, 4 stars for me.
It's like, not to the same extent. I feel like this did it significantly better, but even now we're still talking about that New Blood 8 match between Tam and Tam. I can't.
Yeah, we are. You're right.
Can't remember a single thing about that match, but I remember there being 2 Tam Nakanos, and I feel like this match had that gimmick to it, absolutely. But the fact that it was also a fantastic wrestling match, you had all these really cool spots, you had all these throwbacks to Mayu's career. The fact that we are celebrating this career and life of Mayu Iwatani alongside the Runaway Wrestler, it was just a really wholesome match. I completely agree with you, and this was actually something I was going to bring up later, because even though it's not a complaint of mine per se, and I know that obviously you have severe gripes with some of the fashion choices on this show, which is fair enough. Poor Suzu. I was going to ask, actually, rather than having the God's Eye versus Stars tag match being the buffer, do you think perhaps that the Oedetai versus Queen's Quest match should have gone on last? Or do you think because of the result, you don't want to end on that sort of negativity?
100%. Yeah, 100%. When and we were kind of told like some of this card may be shuffled, and I'm like, okay, if they put this Queen's Quest versus Oedetai match on, Queen's Quest is winning. However, we have seen, and I understand it's not Rossi booking anymore, but we have seen when Rossi books, no matter how hot the angle is, he either has the red belt or the white belt match go on last. Again, and I mentioned this 100 times over the years on the podcast. Io Shirai's final match in Stardom was Io and Mayu, the reunion of Thunder Rock, against Suzuki and Kagetsu, and that did not go on last. The white belt match with Jungle Kiona and Momo Watanabe, which is a phenomenal match, by the way, went on last because of how well they pride their championship belt. So I think that's the reason why it didn't go on last. I think that because of the heat and the result, and again, we're going to get into it in a minute, but also the fact that it makes the white belt and the red belt seem so much more, because what everybody was talking about on the show was that angle in the match, and where do we go from here, and is Stardom doomed? Which they're not. I mean, it's the genius of what's probably going to come. I can't wait to talk about in a moment, but it raises the prestige of the Wonder and the World of Stardom Championship.
I agree. I do agree. I think if you were putting this on last, especially when you think that they've booked this, as I mentioned before, almost a year to the day of that perfectly booked cage match last year between Queen's Quest and Oedetai, which for many people was match of the year, for myself included. An incredible match, incredible drama, well structured, well booked, well paced. And to have that same thing here, to only have Queen's Quest win again, would feel a bit, I don't know, would feel a bit strange. However, we did have this next. The losing unit must split 10-woman tag team elimination match with Oedetai, Momo Watanabe, Natsukatora, Rina Ruaka, and Tekla defeating the Queen's Quest team, Azumi, Hina, Lady C, Miyu Amasaki, and Saya Kamitani, with Natsukatora last eliminating Saya with the Swanton Bomb in 27 minutes and 29 seconds. We knew beforehand that this wasn't your run-of-the-mill elimination tag match, or your run-of-the-mill, should I say, losers unit must split up match, in the way that with Saya being the person to take the last pin, the other four members, Azumi, Hina, Lady C, Miyu Amasaki, would be the ones to leave Queen's Quest. This result, of course, does leave Saya Kamitani as the sole member of Queen's Quest, effectively dissolving the unit. The eliminations, by the way, just before we talk into more granular detail about the match and the wider implications. Tekla eliminated Lady C in 6 minutes with the Dokugomu death drop. Rina then eliminated Miyu Amasaki in 7 minutes and 55 seconds with the Pink Devil. Hina eliminated Rina, potentially setting up a future of Stardom championship match in 12 minutes and 26 seconds with a roll-up reversal. Ruaka then eliminated Hina in 13 minutes and 37 seconds over the top rope. Azumi then eliminated both Ruaka and Tekla with the Azumi Sushis after a box shot to Tekla. We briefly saw heel Azumi. Azumi and Momo then eliminated each other with a sickening bump. This incredible La Mystica off the apron to the floor, both of them taking a flat belly bump to the outside. No thank you, not at all. And then Natsukatora, as I mentioned, eliminating Saya with the Swanton Bomb. Now, Matt, obviously as Queen's Quest's #1 fan, and of course as a huge fan of Saya Kamitani, what are your thoughts of effectively what is a Queen's Questless Stardom going forward?
Real quick, but you say this one went 27-29?
It did indeed.
Wow, this went almost a half an hour. It didn't feel like it. Okay, I've been very adamant, not only on the show, but a lot of text messages between me and you that nobody wanted this match. That, like, what is Stardom doing? Oh my! When I did my, and I know you had work obligations, you weren't able to record me last week. I was very adamant. I'm prepared for whatever Stardom gets me. Right, you're the book. You know, Mr. Okada has been doing a really, really good job at booking. Obviously, look what we did with the Cinderella tournament. From somebody who's taking the book from the legend Rasi Ogawa, he's doing a great job booking. My main thing is, and again, we heard rumors that it was going to be a Saya Kamitani heel turn, thus dissolving Queen's Quest. So I was like, I don't want either of those to happen. If only one of them happens, don't turn Saya Kamitani heel. It makes no sense. You said it on this show, and when I recorded with Scott when we did our Patreon episode, you both said you two are as big as a Mayu Iwatani fan I am. You both said on separate occasions, you guys are bigger Mayu Iwatani fans than I am. Both said on separate occasions, Saya Kamitani or Mayu is more of a believable heel than Saya Kamitani. Mm-hmm. Saya Kamitani is more of a white meat baby face than Mayu Iwatani and that's not saying Mayu's phenomenal. Saya's on that Ricky Steamboat, Ricky Morton level. Ever since that Wipeout run, she really, really is. It makes no sense to turn her heel. Growing up, my dad gave me some great advice. He said, son, pray for the best, but prepare for the worst. Brother, I was prepared for the worst. And again, I did not want a Queen's Quest breakup, and I did not want Saya Kamitani to turn heel. Neither of those things happened. Queen's Quest is still there. And again, I'm going to get into this in a moment. And I'm going to go on kind of not a rant, but basically there's light. Not only light at the end of the tunnel, this is great booking. And if there's something you need to interject or you need to interrupt me, by all means, my friend, interrupt me. But I'm going to start at Saya Kamitani. What this does for her puts more sympathy on her. When this match was over, Twitter was blowing up. Poor Saya. Saya. Oh my God, I feel so bad for Saya. I feel terrible for Saya. You have made her the most believable babyface, sympathetic babyface in all of wrestling. The only other time, and I wasn't watching Stardom then, and neither were you, the only other time that there's even been a more sympathetic babyface in Stardom's 13-year history was when Io turned on Mayu to break up Thunder Rock to create Queen's Quest. Like, there is no more sympathetic babyface in all the wrestling than Saya Kamitani. She was already top tier. Now she's on a completely different level here because of what happened in this match. Now, as far as this match, I loved how this match was 4-on-2. Basically, they got rid of Xena, they got rid of Miyu, and they got rid of Lady C pretty quickly, right? Obviously, Xena got the pin on Rina, so now we're going to get that future Stardom Championship match. But the crux of this match, we knew going in, was going to be between Saya and Azumi. Saya wants Momo back in Queen's Quest. Momo has laughed it off. Her and Tora, though, are kind of butting heads a little bit. Azumi at first was like, absolutely not. Now she's like, maybe that's a good idea, Saya. Whatever you want to do, you're the leader. I'll follow you. So now we're wondering, is there going to be a heel turn at all in this match? Rob, in my opinion, as far as the actual wrestling goes, Azumi was the MVP in this match. Boy, howdy. Azumi's always on her stuff. She was on her stuff. She was in the ring the most. She had all the coolest spots. She had the most eliminations. Obviously, again, she eliminated Tekla. She eliminated Ruaka. And technically, she eliminated Momo with that double elimination. That's actually the elimination that her and Hazuki had at last year's night one of the Cinderella tournament, which, again, is absolutely insane. She takes the mist in this match, and she's still going. She's fantastic. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but how this match started was, and I knew there was no DQ, and I'm like, please no tags. Please no tags, because there's no disqualification. And the bell's getting ready to ring, and both teams are on the opposite sides of the ring, and it looked like a Lamb of God concert when they're getting ready to do the wall of death. Because as soon as that bell rang, I was like, hell yeah. Hell yeah, we get a brawl. Everybody's brawling on the outside. It gets chaos right from the beginning, and rightfully so. This isn't a normal match. This is basically 4 people are leaving this group, thus almost dissolving. Whoever is left is going to have to build, if they want to, this faction back up in their own image, which I will get into. And it's just fight. And then you have a tag move here or there. You get a 2-on-1 move here or there. Then it's basically a lot of smaller singles matches. And then it comes down to exactly what we thought it was going to come down to. Azumi and Saya versus Momo and Tora. And we get a mini tag match there. And I'm thinking, boy, howdy. I would love to see an actual tag match between these two. And maybe that was a little missed opportunity. They could have had a 15-minute time limit draw maybe a month before this to keep building it up, because this was excellent. Again, obviously Azumi, Momo Watanabe, they double eliminate each other. And now I'm like, okay, there's no way anybody's turning on anybody, because what's Saya Kamitani going to do? Just lay down now? She can't. She's done all this damage to everybody. We're not getting any turns here, except maybe, possibly Momo, which is in the back of my head. Saya and Tora have this great one-on-one match. Then all of a sudden, here goes Momo Watanabe with the baseball bat. And again, I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, and I think you agree with me. This crowd was into everything. They were loud. However, the 3 biggest reactions all came within about 2 minutes of each other in this match. Momo hits Tora with the baseball bat. I audibly gasped in my living room and had goosebumps. I'm like, oh my God, they're doing it. Saya quickly hits the Hurricane in the back of my head. As much as I'm pulling for Queen's Quest, I'm like, I hope that's not the finish. Because if you do 2 big things back to back that fast, you're missing the moment. Again, how I mentioned with FWC, with Brainbuster, dive, body splash. We had time to breathe in between the moments. It was 1-2 real quick. You would have missed the moment. Or if it was a 3, excuse me. You would have missed the moment. It's not. Tor kicks out and the camera goes over to Momo. And Momo pulls her hair back and she just realizes what she did. I'm like, oh my God, we are here. We are here. They're actually doing it. This is what they're actually doing. And then Momo and Saya, and again, huge reaction from the crowd, the biggest reaction of the entire show. And then Momo and Saya, they go to the top rope. And I'm like, sometimes things are too good to be true. What if Momo dumps Saya over the top rope while they're on the second rope? But no, they do a random double knee, which got a huge reaction. And then, Rob, every member of Queen's Quest comes back in the ring. And if you remembered in the beginning of the match, they missed the 5-way drop kick to Tora, but then they bring it back at the opportune time. And not only did they hit it with Tora, it was such a cool visual because Tora's the one that's been tormenting Queen's Quest for the last year, year and a half, even 2 years. And Azumi is in there sweating, and she's got all that mist in her face. It was just a really cool visual because even though Azumi's never been the leader of Queen's Quest, she's been there almost since the beginning. I thought that was so cool. Saya picks up Natsuko Tora, hits it with the Star Crusher, and out of the corner of my eye, Rob, I see the biggest heel maybe in the history of wrestling. I see it clear as day. Pardon my language. That goddamn lunchbox. I see it. I'm like, this isn't the finish. Why would Ruwaka whip this goddamn lunchbox into the ring and hit Saya over the top of the head? Now, Rob, I will say this. You know I'm a fan of the blood sport style shows. Josh Barnett books one match at his next blood sport show and charges me $100, and it's Shuri versus that damn milk crate lunchbox. I will happily pay my money to see that. Now I tell you, my friend, they throw the lunchbox thing in there. And I'm like, why would they do that? That's the perfect time to end the match. And then Momo gets the chair. And I'm like, oh, are they going to start this where they ended this? Because this all began back at the end of 2021 with the chair shot that Momo gave to Azumi. And then she gives it to Saya Kamitani. And I'm like, this is the finish. Tora is just going to roll through her finishes, which she should, and pin Saya. And for 2 minutes, I'm like, why would Momo beat up Tora only to help Tora at the end? And I didn't understand it. And then about an hour after the pay-per-view, I'm like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. Natsuko Tora wants to torment not only Queen's Quest, but Saya Kamitani so much to the point where it's just like, if Momo had the baseball bat and instead of hitting Tora, she hits Saya there. They don't do the tease that she's back to Queen's Quest. Tora hits the DVD and the Swanton 1, 2, 3. You get the reaction, but you don't get the, oh my God, we had it and we didn't. Think about it going into a convenience store with a child that wants a candy bar. They walk in, they say, can I have that candy bar? And you're like, no, you can't have it. They take a little bit of a fit and then it's over. You tell them you can get the candy bar. They pick the candy bar. They go to the register. And as you go to pay, you just laugh and say, I'm not buying you that candy bar. Who's the jerk? That person that teased that goodness there. So Natsuko Tora, her whole plan was, I'm going to give this to you, Saya, only to take it away at your most vulnerable moment, thus dissolving your entire faction. I thought that was absolute genius. The very end, obviously, we get the 1, 2, 3. The one thing I noticed in this match was, as much as they built Tekla up since the turn, she didn't do too much in this match. However, she gets over with me as a giant heel because she has such a great promo by delivering one line. Saya Kamitani is there, tears, clutching the Queen's Quest flag because they're all gone now. It's just her. She gets in her face and says, what are you going to do now, Saya? You're all on your own. I'm like, what a jerk. What a bully. What a great heel just on that one line. Just on that one line where she's basically kicking dirt into the face of a fallen, broken, beaten Saya Kamitani. Saya obviously grabs the flag. She goes to the back. And I did see our friend Scotty Wrestling said he did not like how Saya kind of abandoned the members of Queen's Quest, grabbed the flag and went to the back crying. I completely see it. And I love that part because Saya's embarrassed. She told Queen's Quest, like, Utami left to go to Marigold. I'm going to be the leader now. And I'm going to, trust me, I'm going to get Momo back and I'm going to disband Oedo Tai, the team that's been a thorn in Queen's Quest side before any of us, except for Azumi, has been here. And she doesn't do it because she's so pure of heart. She trusted Momo and Momo gave it to her. She basically said, we're going to get back as Queen's Quest. And then she took it away all within 2 minutes. It was basically, they trusted me and I let them down. And I understand that heartbreak from Saya. So it's just like, oh, you feel for Saya Kamitani. Now, you would be forgiven if Hina, Lady C, and especially Azumi were pissed off, part of my language, pissed off at Saya Kamitani because you said for a month, trust me, I'm going to lead Queen's Quest into the best they've ever been. We're going to get Momo back, just trust me. And even though Azumi was against it at first, went along with the plan, you'd be forgiven for Azumi to be mad at Saya Kamitani. Azumi and the backstage promo comes off as such a ginormous babyface because you know what she says? She says, Saya Kamitani should not apologize to us. I should apologize to Saya because I left Saya in there alone by herself. Azumi, who was the MVP in this match, had 3 eliminations, sacrificed herself to get rid of Momo, took Miss in the face, still says this wasn't Saya's fault. This was my fault. I shouldn't have left their outer alone. Oh my God, Azumi, you're no longer in Queen's Quest, but you're a bigger baby face to me because of that. This was pure genius. Pure genius. So many people are upset at the Brats at Stardom because people that love Saya Kamitani and Queen's Quest like I do. I get it. Folks, the rebuilding of Saya Kamitani is going to be so good. So good. I would not be shocked this weekend, and we'll get into it later, if she loses the high-speed championship to Fukin Death, who is a member of Oedo Tai. And if that's the case, I think she loses to May Sarah. I think they're going to break Saya down a little bit more, build her back up a little bit at the end of next month, and we're going to see a phenomenal 5-star run from her, ultimately leading her to defeat, I believe it's going to be Micah, for the Red Belt Championship. And at that point, Saya Kamitani can now build up Queen's Quest in her own image. I don't think it should happen now. I don't think it should happen after the 5-star. It should happen as we get towards the end of this year, beginning of next year. And you know what other wrestler was able to build Queen's Quest in their own image? Wasn't Momo, wasn't Azumi, or wasn't Utami. It was Io freaking Shirai. So you're literally getting baby, super uber baby face, almost like a Mayu Iwatani run out of Saya. And then you're taking parts of Io Shirai's Queen's Quest, you're melding them two, and you're getting Saya Kamitani. And again, and I understand you're losing these 4 members of Queen's Quest. Obviously, if you see the post-match promo, my guess is Azumi and Miyu Masaki are going to go with the super group. That's Starlight Kid, or I'm sorry, SL May. And
Yes, there you go.
And our 4 sizes too big Suzu Suzuki on the t-shirt, even though I love Suzu.
That's going to be their gimmick. They're just going to wear massive t-shirts.
That's the deal. That's the deal. I think Hina goes over to Stars, and I think that'd be great for Hanan, because Hanan can team not only with her sister, but obviously has a team with Mayu and a team with Saya Ida. It gives Hanan a lot of really cool things to do. I think Lady C for God's Eye is absolutely perfect. Obviously, Shiri came in, offered to go to God's Eye, because I think with Tomoka Inaba and Ronda Yugami, fingers crossed, they're going to be a tag team. Obviously, we see Shiri and Konami, they're a tag team. I would love to see Ami Sori and Lady C. They were a tag team in last year's Goddess tournament and were terrific together as the Tokyo Towers. I think that's the perfect place for her. I think it's going to make her strikes look even better. I think that's a great spot for Lady C. And there's so much you can do. And I made mention on last week's show that if Saya does turn heel and goes to Oedo Tai, Natsuko Tora, Rob, who is the leader of Oedo Tai, basically moves down to 4th, because you have Saya Kamitani who did a heel turn. That's big thing. Momo Watanabe is one of the best workers in all of wrestling, so you're kind of going to get phased out there a little. And Tekla had a really great heel turn and speaks multiple languages. So now you're taking Tora and putting her 4th. Not only is she not 4th, not only is she number 1 in Oedo Tai, she is currently the best heel in all of Stardom. And by a heel, I mean somebody you will pay money to watch her get her ass kicked. And that's why I think they pulled the trigger as fast as they did with the Micah match, because Micah is an absolute ass kicker. And again, we'll get into that when we review the championship match here in a little bit. There's so much you can do with this. There is so much you can do with Saya Kamitani having to rebuild Queen's Quest in her own image. And again, I don't think she should touch it for 3-4 months. You know, one of those old sayings, how can I miss you if you don't go away? Can you imagine if she's just like, you know what, I'm putting this high speed, I'm no longer the high speed champion when she drops this belt. I'm putting that aside. Queen's Quest, I'm putting that aside. I need to focus on myself to win this 5-star Grand Prix. And then, you know, she works her way up. And then maybe between the end of the 5-star and Dream Queendom, she starts eradicating each member of Oedo Tai one after one. Fukin Death, Tekla, Momo, Tora, Bruwaka, the damn milk crate. And you just keep on building her up to that match. And I think Micah's the perfect opponent, because we've been building Micah up since the end of last year as this indestructible force that can take an absolute beating and will kick your ass twice as worse at the end. I think that's the perfect story for her. And here's something else too. Let's throw this out there. Say 7, 8, 9 months from now, Azumi in this new Ultra faction with Suzu Kid, May, and Miyu, basically tells Starlight Kid, hey, look, us as a team, it's okay. We are eternal foes. I need to be out of this faction because I can't be in the same faction with Starlight Kid. We need to be on opposite ends. I don't know where I need to go. At this point, say April, May, June of next year, we're building towards a Saya Kamitani versus Natsuko Tora red belt match. Saya tells Tora, says, Saya, I want a shot at your red belt. She said, no problem. You will get it on one condition. You made me sign that contract last year at the conversion, saying that these members had to be disbanded. However, you're the only one that can overwrite that rule. If you beat me, you win the red belt. If I beat you, Azumi comes back home. Tora says, I agree. No DQ. It's a no DQ match. Azumi comes out towards the end. Looks like she's going to hit Saya with the chair. She hits Tora with the chair, helping Saya win, and then you can bring Azumi back to Queen's Quest. Folks, it's wrestling. All these stipulations, guess what? They're not set in stone. WrestleMania 7, Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man Randy Savage, retirement match. Macho Man lost. Who walked out of the next WrestleMania as the champion? Macho Man. Wasn't he supposed to be retired? Folks, these stipulations aren't set in stone. They can find ways around it. But you're giving Azumi something completely different to do. Azumi has never won the Goddess belts before. She's never even challenged for the white belt. She's never challenged for the red belt. You're giving her something completely different to do, and it's going to up her character. And then you can bring her back into the fold in Queen's Quest. 8 months, 10 months, 11 months, 12 months, who knows? But what they did here, folks, is they broke Saya Kamitani down to bare minimum, to bare bones, and they're going to build her back up. Again, let me reference the MCU. As far as long-term storytelling goes, as far as making tons of money in the entertainment business, nothing is better than what Marvel has done from Iron Man over to Endgame. This is Infinity War. This is Tora Thanos 1, right? We're all upset. What is going to happen? We're going to build back up. You remember after Infinity War, we had Ant-Man and Wasp. We got Ant-Man and Wasp coming up. Fun movie. Before Endgame, we had Captain Marvel. Made $1 billion. We're going to have that coming up with the building of Saya. Eventually, we're going to get to the big finale that is Endgame, which I'm pretty sure we are going to see Saya Kamitani either at the end of the year or maybe the anniversary show or maybe at All-Star Grand Queendom holding the World of Stardom Championship belt. This is her breakdown. Now we're going to have her come back. And again, I see everybody that is pissed off, upset that they broke Saya Kamitani's heart. That's what they want. They want you to have emotion. Because how much better are we all going to feel when Saya wins the 5-star, if she does? How much better are we going to feel when Saya gets her revenge on all members of Oedo Tai? How much better are we going to feel as Saya Kamitani fans when she rebuilds Queen's Quest in her own image? How much better are we going to feel when Saya Kamitani is holding the World of Stardom Championship? Rob, I gave a whole bunch there. Am I crazy to think that those things can happen, especially with Saya winning the World of Stardom Championship?
Absolutely. It was a terrible booking decision, and I hated everything to do with it. No. Everything you've said, I do agree with. There were a couple of things. I do agree that this is sort of a vehicle to build Saya Kamitani back up, and I think Saya Kamitani is obviously the main focus. I am with Scott. I wasn't a particular fan of her walking off and abandoning her, the people that she just let down. I completely understand that it was the embarrassment. It's her fault. She's the naive one that trusted Momo Watanabe. But also, it was her decision. All of this is because of her, and she needs to stand up and face the music. And I feel like being that sort of leader may generate a little bit more babyface sympathy than running to the back and crying. I do understand why they've done it, mind you, because, let's not forget Saya Kamitani was never officially elected leader of Queen's Quest. This was sort of a self-appointed title, and the rest of Queen's Quest just sort of went, all right then, yeah, okay, you can be leader, yeah, sure. And this is what's happened, when did Utami leave? March? And by June, Queen's Quest are not only in the worst place they've ever been, they're not a thing technically anymore. I do think the result was right. I think the way they booked it was great. I think huge props need to go to Ruaka, because if she misses that pinfall with the box, like if
Can you
we get
imagine?
that pinfall and Ruaka launches in, it just sails clean over the top of Saya's head, and we get that misjudged pinfall and a Wenatai have to break up. I would have loved that. That would have been hilarious, especially after Tora having written this thing into the contract and be like, "You had one job, Ruaka. One job. Oh, you're back from injury for one day, and you break up my faction." But no, in all seriousness, aside from potentially having Saya Kamitani sort of take her medicine, I think everything else was done brilliantly. The main issue that I saw people have with it was that how can it be Queen's Quest without Azumi? You've already answered that in your sort of fantasy booking that you went off on, which, I do agree with. My only sort of thing now is, people who are listening to this podcast will hopefully have already seen the conversion. So obviously we had Micah defeat Xena in the main event. We then had Tora challenge Micah for the red belt at the end, presuming she comes out of this match with Tomoka Inaba. Does Tora beat Micah, and then you have Saya Kamitani dethrone Natsuka Tora to win the red belt? So that double whammy of redemption. Or do you think it needs to be from Micah? Because ultimately, at the moment, Natsuka Tora is the most despised person in the world in terms of Stardom. She's orchestrated this breakup of Queen's Quest, which has been, a sore point for a Wedatai since 2017, something like that, when they lost that first loser leaves unit match with Tam leaving. So she's orchestrated this. She's toyed with Saya's emotions by getting Momo to do the face turn and the heel turn all in the space of 12 seconds. I do, however, think, Matt, that you missed a trick not calling it tormenting even, not tormenting.
I love it.
But yeah, what are your opinions on that? Do you feel like it needs to be Micah to sort of close the chapter on that? Well, not close the chapter, but sort of end this passage in the generational rivalry storyline? Or do you think comeuppance needs to be given to Natsuka Tora by beating her for the red belts, maybe at Dream Queendom? I mean, ordinarily, if you told me that we were looking at a Tora versus Saya Kamitani match as the main event for Sumo Hall, I would be like, I'm not sure that's going to draw a tremendous amount of tickets, but okay, sure. However, if you are building this as Tora the Great Destroyer, who has effectively destroyed Queen's Quest, ripped this thing which so many of us find synonymous with Stardom, has ripped that away from us, has broken down the quintessential Stardom babyface into nothing, and she's had to physically drag herself up, potentially winning the 5-star Grand Prix. Do you think that a good enough comeuppance would be Saya then beating her for the red belt?
I did see, and I think Scott, he thinks that Tora's going to win the red belt coming up at the end of next month. And I see that point, and that would be, you get the double whammy. You get Saya winning the red belt, and you get her disbanding Tora, which would make sense. But I think the bigger thing here is having it be Micah. Again, we have built Micah up to this wrestler, this phenomenal wrestler that can take an absolute beating, very resilient. But at the end, she's the one that gets her hand raised. We saw it with Suzu. We saw it with Saya at the anniversary show. Obviously, we saw it with Megan Bain. We saw it with Utami. We saw it with Momo Watanabe. And boy, howdy, did we see it on this show against Xena, which we'll get into a moment. So I think if we keep doing that with Mike and we keep building her up like that, only for Saya Kamitani, again, to basically just, between the 5-star and going to Dream Queendom, for Saya to finally get over all those mountains, to build herself up to now the last mountain to climb is to win that red belt. It's like, okay, I dispatched all my demons. I finally was able to, put Oedo Tai behind me. Now the big mountain for me to climb is the World of Stardom champion. Who is the World of Stardom champion? It's Micah. It's my generational rival. It's the person that beat me about a year ago. If they do the match at Dream Queendom, the person that beat me about a year ago to retain the red belt. It's the person that I defeated to retain the white belt, and the person that I defeated to win the Cinderella tournament. And I think if you're building Micah up like that, and you're building Saya up like that, you have no BS. You don't have to worry about any interference. It's just two great wrestlers going at it. I think if you build it up that way, in the simple way, you're going to have a better match and draw more money than you would with Saya dethroning Natsuko Tora. Again, that's my opinion. I think you can go with it either way, but I think the ending of the story needs to be Saya Kamitani with the World of Stardom Championship. Again, whether you do it at Dream Queendom, whether you wait for the anniversary show, or whether you wait for All-Star Grand Queendom, that's the way that they're clearly, in my opinion, that they're going here. And this booking in this match, which, by the way, I gave 4.5 stars, this booking of this match was done absolutely perfect for. And I'm so excited for the future of everybody that was in this match, because now we get a Rena versus Hina match out of it. Ruaka is very despised because of the stupid milk crate, lunch crate. Tekla, again, had a one-line promo, but kept phenomenal heat. Momo Watanabe teased us, but then took it away and then went back with Tora. Tora, again, you mentioned, is the biggest heel in all of Stardom. We have a clean slate for Lady C, for Miyu, and for Hina. And then Azumi, I think, is going to come out of this as a bigger star, because now she's going to go basically carve her own path in that new faction. And I guess, again, let's call it like we see it, the 4 sizes too large faction with Suzu, SL May, and Miyu Amasaki. So everybody, I know on paper at first you're like, we're all doomed. Every wrestler came out of this match better because of where they're going in current storylines. And again, the booking, I did not have high expectations. I knew it would be a good match because of everybody involved, but I just wasn't sure where they're going to go with this. And I'm so glad I was so wrong. Even with Queen's Quest losing this match, I'm like, I clearly see where they're going. It's a simple story to tell, and we're all going to be rejoiced once Saya Kamitani defeats the evil Tora Thanos.
Tora Thanos. The thing that I saw on sort of Twitter timelines and on social media in general was sort of they understand the story of Saya Kamitani, but do you think that the remainder of Queen's Quest and, Azumi in particular have been sacrificed just so we can tell the Saya story? And I can see that point, certainly, but also, the fresh coat of paint certainly will help. Whether Azumi does just decide to go out on her own, whether she does join the supergroup of Crazy Star and Starlight Kids, they're 4XL, as I'm sure we're going to be talking to them, saying their names from now on. Queen's Quest is not inherently linked to Azumi and vice versa. Yes, she was the last semi-original member, because in fact she was only actually drafted in as a replacement for Momo when Momo did a knee in, and it was just Io and Hazuki. Everyone has left Queen's Quest at some point or another, and all have been fine. So yes, it's not nice to see Azumi not as a member of Queen's Quest when arguably she should have been the leader rather than Saya Kamitani. She didn't have a say in going for a Oedo and doing this, and ultimately the dissolution of the unit. And that's also very sad. But also, you look at what a fresh coat of paint has done to so many different wrestlers by going to different factions, by reinventing themselves. We've talked about how Azumi, she's ready for that next step, that white belt, that red belt run. And I feel like this change of scenery could be the vehicle to do that. Obviously, as you've already mentioned, both God's Eye and Starlight Kids 4XL team both came out and sort of offered the remainder of people places. I agree that Lady C is almost a shoe-in for God's Eye because of the Reiwa Tokyo Towers. I feel like Azumi at some point and Miyu Amasaki will probably join 4XL. In terms of Hina's the real outlier here because I can see her going to God's Eye. I can also see her going to EXV. I don't see her quite being the outright white meat babyface of a Cosmic Angels or a Stars, but I'd be happy with wherever she ends up. And again, even though Queen's Quest is effectively no more, obviously Saya retains the rights as though this is some sort of messy divorce. She does retain the naming rights, and she did in fact come out the following day against Risa Sera in the Catch the Wave tournament holding the Queen's Quest flag, which I thought was quite interesting. She would then ultimately lose, I think, as well to Risa Serra. So it's been an interesting week for Queen's Quest. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think for what they were trying to do, it was booked perfectly. I don't think it was as well built as the cage match that they did a year prior, but that match was damn near perfection. And I think I said in Chasing the Dream about how if you wanted to craft the most emotionally perfect ending, then this match is the closest you're going to get. So to follow that, I think was very, very difficult from the outset. But the fact that they went a completely different way, and yes, absolutely, we value things more when we've had stuff ripped away from us. So yes, to that extent, I certainly agree that this is the way to go. However, it's going to be a while before myself, and I imagine a whole heap of wrestling fans, yourself included, are going to be used to not seeing Queen's Quest as Queen's Quest on shows. And that's the real sad thing here. However, obviously, we don't want everything right now. We want to enjoy the ride. We want to enjoy the story. And whether you are of the opinion that Azumi, Hina, Lady C, Mio Amasaki have been sacrificed to tell the Saya Kamitani story, or whether you think that the fresh coat of paint is going to work, especially for the likes of Azumi and a Lady C, or whether you are all in on Saya Kamitani, the ride is what is going to be incredibly enjoyable, and it's going to be really interesting in another year's time to see where this story has capped off and what is in the makings for Queen's Quest at that point. So I'm very much looking forward to, in a year's time, Matt, looking back at this show. Moving on then, we had good grief, we talked about that match for a while.
I knew I was going to. I text you, I think, quite a bit. I'm like, I got a lot to say, and it's a lot of positivity coming out of it. So take a breath, and let's get into these two ladies kicking each other in the head.
I don't know if anyone's seen, there's a TikTok video going around, or it has been anyway, of someone filling up one of these squishy Jabba the Hutts. For those who don't know, Jabba the Hutt is a weird slug thing off Star Wars, and is filling it with water to see how big it would get, and it gets massive before it eventually bursts. And in my head, that was what you were doing. The longer you were forced to wait to talk about Saya Kamitani and Queen's Quest, you were just filling with water, and eventually someone just had to put a pinprick in you so you could eventually just let it all out. And I imagine you're now sitting in your car at a normal size again. So I'm glad I could help you, mate.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Wonder of Stardom Championship match, as though, in a rather unenviable position, having to follow this utter emotional gut punch that we've just seen. Wonder of Stardom Championship match. Mika Iwata became the 21st Wonder of Stardom champion, defeating Saori Anou in 21 minutes and 8 seconds, which, of course, ends the reign of Saori Anou at 176 days and 3 successful title defenses. I don't think anyone... Well, I certainly didn't expect this. I saw some reviews of the show that said this was always going to happen, and I was like, did I miss a good chunk of Stardom shows? Maybe people who are more in tune with Sendai Girls and things like that will be able to say, actually, Rob, you missed this, and this, which is quite possible. But this was a fantastic match. A really, really hard-hitting, stoic affair where both women just seemingly wanted to one-up each other in terms of brutish, hellish kicks. Mika Iwata, this is her first singles match in Stardom in 9 years, where she got blitzed by Kairi Hojo back in 2015, literally to the point where I don't know if she broke her nose with a stray cutlass, but she certainly messed her up with a back fist. And it's her first match in Stardom proper in 8 years. So it's been nice to see Mika Iwata back. Matt, I did not expect this result to go down the way it did. And I saw Scott, we're going to shout him out a lot. I feel like he's almost here in this discussion. I saw him say, if you're going to do a shock white belt title change, why not Hazuki? And I must admit, Scott, I am on board with you, my friend. I'm pointing at absolutely nothing because I'm alone in my podcast room, but I am pointing, Scott. That's how into it I am. But yeah, I must admit, I was like, if you're going to do this, it would have worked with Hazuki. However, I love this match. I thought it was great. The surprise was a genuine, like, oh my God moment. And like I said, we've got a rematch coming up July 15th in Sendai Girls. It's progressed the story of Natsupoi and Saori as well, as opposed to just having Natsupoi sort of waiting in the background for her opportunity. It's given that new lease of life as well. So yeah, I wasn't ready for Saori to drop the belt. I think she's done a fantastic job with it in the 176 days that she's held it. However, for however long Mika Iwata does actually hold the belt, I am very, very excited to see what's next. Again, for Stardom. As though the landscape couldn't change anymore.
I tell you what, how do you follow that insane, we talked about for about 20 minutes? How do you get people back involved? How do you get Matt Turner back involved? Well, your first spot of the match is a big lockup. So Soriano and Mika Iwata with a big lockup. So I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. Let's go. Obviously Mika Iwata, her strength is her kicks, right? And Soriano eats a lot in the beginning, only to bait. I love this spot. Bakes Mika Iwata into the ropes, and she basically does the rope assisted dragon screw leg whip, which I thought was great. And then Soriano is working over Iwata's leg and her knee to the point where Iwata is trying to throw a kick, but she can't with her left leg, but then switches over to her right leg to throw the kicks. I thought that was great. It's like, well, I can't use my main kicking leg. I'll use my secondary kicking leg because that does almost as much damage. I thought that was a really cool spot and something very small that added to the match with me. It's like, there's too much damage on this leg. Let me switch to the other one, because I thought that was really cool. We get a really good forearm exchange between the two. Some really great back and forth action. Obviously, Soriano she impressed me so much with her ability to bridge between the perfect plex and the Muda lock that she does. It's really, really just insane how high she gets up on those toes, and when she does her bridges, and just makes the damage that she does to her opponents look that much more legit. I thought this was a really cool spot as Soriano is hitting the German suplexes, and then she goes for the Tom's Tundra. And we've seen the Tom's Tundra. We've seen the Tom's Tundra countered several times before, but this might be the most violent. This is right up there with Mirai's lariat that she hit her with. But Mika Iwata hits this insane Mirko Krokop style head kick. I thought that was great. And then and then she hits another head kick that scores her a 2 count. Soriano starts building her offense back up. She hits a missile drop kick that scores her a 2 count. And then she finally hits the Tom's Tundra. Again, I love the way in wrestling when you build towards a big move, but you don't have your opponent worn down just yet, and they counter it, and then you go back to it, and then you build towards it again. She hits the Tom's Tundra. That scores her a 2 count. Iwata comes back and drops Soriano with a spin kick. I mean, Iwata's kicks were pretty tight to begin with, but the last 3 or 4 minutes of this match, she outright blitzes poor Soriano. I mean, just absolutely just destroys her with these spin kicks, and then hits a running head kick that scored her a 2 count. But then Soriano was able to come back and reverse. I guess ultimately, I don't know the name of Mika Iwata's finisher, but it's basically like a hammerlock fire thunder driver. She goes for that, but Soriano slips out, and then to the Potter ring for a 2 count. And then Iwata comes back with some more insane kicks. And then again, goes back to it because she doesn't have her worn down enough for what I guess is her finisher. Is able to use more kicks to wear down the Wonder of Stardom champion, and hits that hammerlock fire thunder driver for the 3 count. I thought this match was terrific. Again, I'm going to have to go back and watch this. Maybe I'll do it tonight. I had it 4 3/4 stars. I thought this was a terrific match. And then you throw like Natsupoi, like, what are you doing? Like, you just got blitzed and owned at the end of the match. You need to be more serious. Like, what are you doing? And even Iwata was like, this isn't the Soriano I know. This isn't the Soriano that I had 2 time limit draws in Sendai Girls with. Like, where did she go? And maybe this is going to fire Soriano up to come back as the dark Soriano, like the one in all the black gear that we've seen her wrestle in the independents before. A little more violent, a little more dangerous Soriano. Maybe that's where we go. But Rob, the way that I'm looking at this, obviously Natsupoi, she was pissed. She was ultimate murder pixie. And we're starting to get the cracks in Soriano and Natsupoi's relationship, because Soriano just got destroyed here, and you got Natsupoi yelling at her. Don't be shocked if Soriano is somebody that joins Queen's Quest at the end of this year. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. It's a possibility. It's a possibility because we're seeing cracks here. I liked how literally after this match was over, it's like, we have an automatic rematch in Sendai Girls on the same show that we're getting Momo Watanabe versus Dash on. So, and I believe, and I could be wrong, I believe that show is going to be on Wrestle Universe because Sendai Girls is on Wrestle Universe. So I'm all about that. I thought this match was great. If this means more Mika Iwata in Stardom, I am all for it. If this was just a one-off for Soriano then to win the belt back at Sendai Girls, I can't see that. I think, again, if Mr. Okada is like, okay, here's what we're booking. We're going to bring Iwata in from Sendai Girls. We're going to give the Sendai Girls world champion. We're going to give her the Wonder of Stardom championship match. What are we getting out of return? Is just Soriano just going to go over there and win our belt back on their show? I don't think so. I would not be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if this match goes to another time limit draw, and then we see Soriano win the belt back at the that show that they're building at the end of July, and then she wins it back there. I think maybe we get a little longer with this run, but I wouldn't be shocked to see, and maybe this is wishful thinking on my part, would not be shocked to see Mika Iwata in the 5-star Grand Prix, my friend.
I wouldn't be surprised now to see Mika Iwata in the 5-star Grand Prix at all. I think she's almost a shoo-in. I don't know if I'd have, if Mika Iwata defeats Soriano at the Sendai Girls show on July 15th, I can't see there then being a rematch again 2 weeks later.
Time limit draw. No, time limit draw in Sendai Girls.
Yeah, I see what you mean. No, I see what you mean. I don't know. Do you want to see that match 3 times, or do you want to see another title challenge and then have Soriano maybe win it later on? Because clearly from Natsupoi's very, very angry promo post-match in that you were supposed to hold this belt till I could go for it, which I thought was a great sort of really angry outburst from Natsupoi, which we don't see from Poi at all. We don't see angry Poi at all, really. So to see this was great and showed her passion for this belt. Do you have someone else challenge Mika Iwata, maybe someone who's in the 5-star Grand Prix block, beats her in the 5-star Grand Prix? Do you have Natsupoi just take it off Mika Iwata? Is the story Natsupoi and Soriano? There's a lot of things to ponder, and I think until we are clear of the 2 Sapporo shows on the 27th and 28th, we won't really know. I feel like after those 2 shows, we'll have a far clearer sort of picture of where we are going to be heading into Sumo Hall in December, because obviously we've got the 5-star Grand Prix, then we've got a handful of pay-per-views in between that and Dream Queendom, but Dream Queendom is the big sort of crowning glory there, which is where I do think Natsupoi is going to get the white belt off whoever has got the belt at that point. Irrelevant, fantastic match. The finisher, according to the Stardom website, is called the Raion. The Raion? Raion. I'm sure someone's going to tell me how to pronounce that in the comments, and please do. But yeah, great match. Really, really good match. And I'm looking forward to the rematch on July 15th in Korakuen. Speaking of great matches, World of Stardom Championship on the line. Maika defending the red belt successfully for the 5th time against Xena in 22 minutes and 27 seconds. Wrist clutch Michinoku driver 2. This blew all of my expectations out of the window. This Xena in the second run with the company is almost a completely different wrestler to Xena from that first run. She seems accomplished, she seems calm, she seems confident, she's utilizing more of that athletic side that we didn't see enough of in that first run. And actually, she's just a damn good wrestler. And I feel like we haven't seen enough of that until the last couple of weeks, where she just seems to have taken off in sort of preparation for this challenge. Obviously, we knew there was going to be a lot of chops, and Maika's chest, bless her, by the end of this, looked like a plate of minced beef. It was an absolute mess. But Xena, so much more than chops. There was so much really, really intricate mat work at different points during this match that completely surprised me. And then, of course, you've got the brutality. You've got this brilliant moment on the apron where in one movement, Xena managed to duck a lariat, sort of propel herself half into the ring using the middle rope, and catch Maika with a spinning power slam on the apron. And it was like, I've never seen that before. And it was such a cool, innovative little spot. But it just shows the confidence that Xena has at the moment. I'll be perfectly honest, I thought this was going to be a throwaway tile defense of 4 stars, and Xena would be promptly popped back down the card to sort of the mid card, where she continues to be a relatively strong foreigner. Here, however, I want to see her topping more pay-per-views, because genuinely, what a match and what a performance she gave to herself. And Micah, we really need to put her in the conversation for Worker of the Year, because she has not missed in these title defenses, and it's yet another example of someone being given the red belt and sort of that little kernel of doubt of, is it too soon? Are we sure? I mean, I have openly said I had this about Utami back in 2020, and then was instantly corrected the moment she walked out with the red belt, was putting on bangers with everyone she stepped in the ring with. Micah is the exact same. Saya Kamitani, banger of a match. Megan Bain, banger of a match. Xena, banger of a match. There just seems to be all of these matches. Utami, for God's sake, fantastic match. Momo Watanabe, fantastic match. They're all great title defenses, and actually it's done a tremendous amount for Micah, who's already held the belt for 180 days as we record, so she's already well into this reign, and is only 4 days from eclipsing Bea Priestley's reign with the belt. But excellent match, excellent chemistry, and it was nice as well to see post-match that they just had so much respect for each other. Stardom, I don't know what the situation is in terms of Xena's tour, how long this tour is going to happen. Please keep her as long as you can. Please keep her as long as you can. Make sure she is in that 5-star Grand Prix, and highlight her like you did with Mariah May last year, because she could do some serious, serious damage as a mid-card champion. I mean, I didn't think I'd need to see Xena with a singles championship, but she's just main evented a pay-per-view, and she hasn't just hit it out of the park. The park's a dot in the distance at this point. Fantastic match. 4.5 stars. Well played, both women.
Now, Rob, not to go back to the whole Saya Kamitani thing, we're building. We've again.
Have
no,
you
hold
not
on, hold
said
on, hold
enough,
on,
Matt Turner?
hold on. Relax. Pump your breath. You're like everybody else that's yelling at me on Twitter 20 minutes after that match. You just built Micah. You waxed poetically about Micah, right? And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. If we continue to build Micah up like this, and by we, I mean starting the booking and Micah just being a phenomenal worker, the bigger money match to me, and this is the point I wanted to get to that I only touched upon a little bit, the bigger match to me is building Micah up like this to then rebuilding Saya Kamitani at the end of the year. That's the kind of point I was putting in a pin until right now. To me, that's the bigger match than Saya dethroning Tora, is building Micah up like this, putting on match of the year contender one after another, building her up to be, which could be one of the best red belt champion runs of all time if we keep doing this until the end of the year, up against a red hot Saya Kamitani that we're going to start building up over the next 5-6 months. That's the point I'm getting at, right? Because you're absolutely right. The way that you talked about Micah and wax lyrically about her, absolutely. And this is the Micah that I want to see go in main event the big show at the end of the year. Xena is, in my opinion, I know we still got 6 months left of this year, or 5 months. She's the most improved wrestler in all of wrestling. I don't think anybody's going to catch her. She's fantastic. You mentioned Micah. Let's put her in the conversation of Worker of the Year. If you're asking me to vote right now, number 1 is Will Ospreay. Number 2 is Mayu Iwatani. Number 3 and 4, you can flip-flop between Bryan Danielson and Sari. Number 5 is Micah. And I wanted to ask you this question, and I'm glad we're going to get this opportunity to ask this. And there's no wrong answer. Again, I have Micah as number 5. The only 2 women's wrestlers I have above Micah right now is Mayu and Sari. Do you think Mayu and Sari can have this good a match with Xena as Micah just did?
It's a difficult question simply because Micah is a completely different wrestler than Micah. A completely different style. Mayu is... And this isn't just because she's my favorite wrestler of all time. She's a universal talent who seems to be able to have these fantastic matches with whoever she's put in the ring with. She is the best seller of offense in Stardom, prides herself on that. In fact, in interviews, she's called herself a genius for the way that she's able to sell. She's very, very humble. But I think she would have a fantastic match with Xena. I think Sari, for the limited amount I've seen of Sari, and it's criminally little that I've seen of Sari, I think she'd be able to have a great match as well. However, the fact that Micah, who is considerably younger in her career than those two women, the fact that she was able to have this style and caliber of match with Xena, who has never had this level of match in Stardom before, I think speaks volumes of not only Micah's ability to dictate the pace of the match, to sort of lead the match as she will as champion, but also speaks volumes of Xena's readiness to be elevated into that sort of area where we thought we were full, but actually we could very well see Xena fill that Megan Bain slot that we haven't seen this year, aside from, a handful of shows at the start of the year. In answer to your question, I think Mayu and Sari would have great matches with Xena, but they'd have different matches with Xena. I think the way that Micah was able to both absorb and unload a whole lot of brutish, beefy offense is only really a match that Micah will be able to have, as opposed to a Mayu or a Sari.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious on where you stand at. They'd be great matches, but
oh god, yeah.
Yeah, I had this at 4 3/4 stars match. You made a main eventer out of Xena. You can main event her on. Obviously, she's in a loaded bracket in the 5-star Grand Prix with still 3 other wrestlers to be announced. You can put her on co-main event or main event of any of those shows in the 5-star Grand Prix. You can have her as a challenge for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. Whether it's Soriano, whether it's Miko Wada, whether it's Suzuki, yes, please. Whether it's Mina, yes, please. Or whether it's Natsupoi, it's going to be a great match. It's going to draw a lot of interest, and it's going to make Stardom money. You hit on all the big points on pretty much a lot of the moves. The one thing I thought was really cool is how Xena knows Micah so well. And Micah, those lariats that she uses to start building towards her offense, she couldn't get to. She tried the one on the apron. You mentioned the power slam. Then she went for the 360 lariat towards the end of the match, and Xena caught it into a rolling armbar, which I've never seen her do before. So now we're adding the submission game is into Xena. Again, Xena was absolutely brilliant here. I knew it would be a good match. I figured, Stardom has enough faith in Xena putting her in a championship match on a pay-per-view against Micah. They must know something here. And we've been saying for the last 2 or 3 months, she's really, really improved her game. This was a completely different level. Just another fantastic match. And yes, Xena, in my opinion, the most improved wrestler in all of wrestling. Micah is in my top 5 as far as best workers in all of wrestling this year. And folks, it has been a stacked year. We've really been spoiled as pro wrestling fans for the quality of wrestling that we're getting. And again, coming out of this match, and we'll talk about in the post-match promo, we have built up Natsuko Tora. She is the biggest, baddest heel in all of Stardom. Somebody we are going to pay money, hopefully, to see Micah smash her face. And that's what we want to see. We have made a main eventer out of Xena. Miko Wada is holding our second biggest belt. Where did that come from? And she was great in the match. Are we getting her more in Stardom? I think so. I hope so. Again, we're hoping that she's in the 5-star Grand Prix, and we've completely redone the landscape of Stardom with changing a lot of things. But the booking committee has made a main eventer out of Xena. We now have Tora in a main event that people are going to pay money to hopefully see Micah kick her ass. We have completely redone a lot of the factions. We have the new faction of the 4XL, SLK May Sarah, or whatever it is, the SL May, sorry.
There you go.
Ahead of myself. We have done so much really cool stuff, and it sets up so many fresh matchups. And again, brother, I am so excited for where Stardom is going, and we'll mention in a little bit. You know where we're going? Cork and Hall, FWC versus God's Eye. Holy jeez. But before we get there, let's talk about this post-match promo and angle.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, after this match, we did see flashes of Tora and Ruaka sitting at ringside just with their feet up, having the time of their life watching this match. Obviously, the end comes. Xena, very appreciative to Micah. They both embrace in the ring. Tora comes to the ring, basically puts herself forth for the championship. I think that's probably where we're going for Sapporo on the 28th of July. It'll probably be Tora and Micah main eventing that. She and Ruaka begin to beat down Xena and Micah. And then Takumi Iroha. No, she doesn't. Not at all. I've put Takumi Iroha, and I don't know why I put that in my notes.
Right, you talk about me fantasy booking. This person wasn't even there.
Jesus, Tomoka Inaba. I've actually put Iroha. I don't know why. Tomoka Inaba comes down, cleans house ahead of her and Micah's match in Just Tap Out for their anniversary show, which is also coming up in July. And that has now officially been made a red belt match. So Micah will defend the red belt in Just Tap Out against Tomoka Inaba, presumably in what will be a very, very, very good match. Will retain that belt and then go on to Sapporo on the 28th of July, where I assume she will defend against Natsuko Tora. Now, my big question to you, Matt, is that we were both relatively negative in regard to how negative we can get on this podcast, because we're not overtly negative. But in terms of this show, we were worried about the landscape of Stardom. And I do keep saying the landscape of Stardom, but how it would look coming out of this pay-per-view. And we were worried that losing one of the most tenured units in Stardom would ultimately put a huge dark cloud over Stardom and the rest of this show. However, quite controversially, I personally think this is the best Stardom show of the year so far. I think it, in terms of top to bottom, I actually think this is better than All-Star Grand Queendom this year. And I don't know about you, but I think this is one of the best pay-per-views that Stardom have put on, top to bottom, in terms of storytelling, in terms of direction of where we're going, in terms of exciting couple of months going forward, and in terms of just match quality, I think this is one of the best pay-per-views that Stardom have put on in the last 18 months.
I tell you what, I agree with you on a lot of things you said. This was a great pay-per-view from start to bottom with some really cool booking angles. And again, in where we're going, we've set up 2 red belt matches, coming up in the next month. And obviously that's what we want to see, is Mike in more red belt matches. Because clearly, again, look at the track record. Suzu Suzuki, Saya Kamitani, Megan Bayne, Utami, Momo, now Xena. They're all home runs. I mean, right? No one can deny that. Do I like it better than All-Star Grand Queendom? Rob, I'm going to ask you a question, buddy. This might be the hardest question I've ever asked you. You ready?
Oh, God.
I'm comparing. Now, I know Mayu's your favorite wrestler. I'm going to compare Mayu matches. What Mayu match did you like better? Mayu versus Sari, or Mayu and Mayu versus Shuri as Kagetsu? Where do you go?
Is that where we're going, is it? I mean, it's a tough call. It's a tough call. I mean, Mayu and Sari.
Double Mayus.
It is double Mayu. It was like I was drunk at one point, just double visioning Mayu. Unfortunately, I do have to say that obviously Mayu and Sari is still my match of the year at the moment. So yes, that will have to be my answer to that. What about you?
But no, it was just a joke. I know how great Mayu and Sari was, but I'm like, you get double Mayus and Shuri as Kagetsu. So just poking a little fun there, brother. But yeah, it's either this or All-Star Grand Queendom. I don't know. If you were to ask me this today, I may say this one. If you were to ask me tomorrow, I may say All-Star Grand Queendom. Obviously, night 1 of the 5-star Grand. You mentioned one of the best shows in the last 18 months. Obviously, night 1 of the 5-star Grand Prix, despite the injury to Saya Kamitani, for wrestling quality, that's up there as well. I mean, that just goes to show you just the great wrestling quality Stardom has given us, not only in this year, but the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, really, their wrestling is top notch with that stacked roster. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of the best wrestling shows I've seen. It's probably my top 4. As far as pure this one, All-Star Grand Queendom, and then AEW Dynasty and Revolution, the Sting retirement show, probably my top 4 or 5 favorite shows of the entire year. From top to bottom, there wasn't anything bad on this card at all. It was excellent. Again, I think I had 5 matches. Now that I'm thinking about 6 matches at 4 stars. Yeah, the Mayu match, the tag title match, the Starlight Kid match with Maesera, the Queen's Quest match, the white belt and red belt match. So, geez, I mean, again, I always tell people if I have something at 4 stars, it's something that people should take their time out of and seeing. Consider the fact that 90% of this show, not counting the pre-match, no disrespect to your favorite Fukian Death, I have it 4 at 4 stars or higher. So maybe this is the show of the year. Maybe it is. I don't know. Regardless, it's a phenomenal show. If you haven't seen it yet, or go back and watch it, I don't know. I'm sure Rob and I will be doing some of these matches for an alternate commentary probably the next 10 months.
At some point, I imagine.
Man, what a great show. And again, 4.5 hours long. And by no means was I tired, was I bored. I literally went right to the gym afterwards because I was so fired up on what a great show this was. And I'm so excited for the future of Stardom.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of the future of Stardom, just before we sign off, 2 shows in full have been announced for this weekend, both of which will be airing live on Stardom World. So we start with the 29th at Korakuen Hall, which will feature 3 championship matches. Mina Shirakawa obviously won't be on the show due to being on the AEW New Japan Forbidden Door card, but the rest of the card is as follows. Sakura versus Ryan. The Cosmic Angels team, Tam Nakano, Saori Anou, Natsupoi, Yuna Mizumori, and Sayaka Kurora versus the God's Eye team of... it's not just God's Eye. I've just seen that. Rani Yagami, Ami Sori, Saki Kashima, Lady C, and Hina. So we might be seeing Hina as a member of God's Eye, which, again, I think is a good fit for her. Starlight Kid, Mei Seira, Azumi, and Miyu Amasaki versus the Uedatai team of Natsuko Tora, Momo Watanabe, Tekla, and Ruaka. EXV team of Maika, Xena, Wax, Tsukiyama making her in-ring return, and Hanako versus the Stars team of Mayu Utani, Hanan, Saida, and Momokogo. High-speed championship match, Saya Kamitani makes her second championship defense versus Queen Clown, Fukik, and Death. Future of Stardom championship match, Rina has the opportunity to tie the record for most successful title defenses with the future belt with 9 versus Diana's Nanami. And then in your main event is the match that me and Matt have spoken a lot about, Goddesses of Stardom championship match, FWC, Hazuki and Koguma making their third success, or making their third title defense, should I say, against the God's Eye team of Syuri and Konami. Matt, some really, really interesting things outside of the 3 title matches there. First of all, Lady C and Hina teaming with God's Eye, but also Azumi and Miyu Amasaki teaming with the 4XL team of Starlight Kid and Mei Seira, the tag team, if you will, of SL May.
Yeah, really good stuff. Again, we have 3, really good matches on top for championships, especially with that main event for how hot the tag division has been and continues to be. So that's going to be a great way to end this show. But even these multi-person tag matches, because of what they set up on here on the conversion, that it's going to be interesting to see. And again, we do have the O2 line team teaming with 4XL or SL, May, whatever. We can call them whatever we want. It's gonna be sad when this unit is an actual unit and they give it a name, and we're gonna be like, no, our name's cooler.
It was the exact same with Marigold.
Yeah, I was ready to say that for the Rossi Vice Wrestling, which I don't think I've called it Rossi Vice Wrestling in like 3 shows, so I got to get back on the horse on that. But no, really interesting stuff. Again, we've been made mention that you need to give Cork and Hall something special, and as good as the wrestling has been at Cork and Hall shows, we haven't got any title matches, and we have 3 title matches, and then plus a lot of really good underneath card matches that again, because of the landscape of what was going on with Stardom from this past weekend. Rob, you mentioned about 2 minutes ago that Mina's obviously not on the show because of Forbidden Door. We've heard rumors there was going to be other Stardom wrestlers on Forbidden Door. If you take a look at the card real quick, do you see what other Stardom wrestlers, main event wrestlers, are not on any of these cards this weekend other than Mina?
Not on this one. However, there are some notable talent missing from the Sunday show in Shinjuku. So if I just flick to that, in terms of that card, Tam Nakano and Momo Watanabe are missing from the Shinjuku card. So if you were hoping for a Mayu Utani run-in during the Mina versus Tony Storm match, unfortunately that's not going to happen. But currently, Tam, Momo, and Mina are not scheduled for the show on Sunday in Shinjuku. Were you looking at me for Tam Nakano by any chance?
And Momo Watanabe. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Tam Nakano, but I'm actually a little bit bigger fan of one Momo Watanabe. So it is interesting. We know Mina, Tam, those wrestlers would probably be going over to AEW just because of just how well they come across on camera and their worldwide exposure. Momo Watanabe is one that I'm like, hell yeah, if that's what we're going for, let's go for it. We mentioned it about a month or so ago about how she was probably, other than Micah, the most over person in the ECW arena at that Stardom show back WrestleMania weekend. So maybe that's something they took note, and maybe we'll see maybe Momo and Tam maybe on a 0-hour match. I don't know. I think there's like 9 matches already announced for that show. But yeah, I'm all for Momo and Tam walking through the Forbidden Door, kicking and maybe violent shooting through the Forbidden Door, if I may.
It would be beautiful to see. I will just say, though, both Tam and Momo are scheduled on the Korakuen Hall show, so it will be a very tight run for Tam and Momo to then be on Forbidden Door the following night, but I'm not saying that it won't happen. Obviously, Mina has got commitments on Dynamite tonight, I believe, as we record. I don't know if she'll be on Rampage or Collision, but she's definitely on Dynamite. In terms of the Shinjuku show then, so obviously Tam and Momo not on the card. The rest of the cards as follows: Maika and Hanako versus Saya Kamitani and Rian versus Saya Ida and Momo Kogo. Xena versus Aya Sakura. Watsukiyama versus Lady C versus Sayaka Kurora. Amisori and Saki Kashima versus Natsupoi and Yuna Mizumori. The God's Eye team plus Hina of Shiori Konami and Rani Yagami versus the Wadatai team of Natsukatora Tekla, Rina and Ruaka. And then the 4XL team of Starlight Kid, Azumi, Meisera and Miyu Amasaki versus Mayu Iwatani, Hazuki, Hanan, and Koguma. So, understandably, not quite as loaded a card as the Korakuen Hall show the previous day. However, there's still some really interesting matchups, most notably, Matt, that main event.
Yeah, again, really, really interesting stuff here as we continue to build towards this new kind of version of Stardom, but everything looks really, really good. And hopefully this show is up, because I believe this one, the Sunday one is a VOD, correct?
Nope, both are live.
Oh, well, for now, we didn't think we were going to have much to talk about other than Korakuen Hall. When we were talking earlier this week, like, we only have Korakuen Hall to review, so that's awesome. So yeah, we'll have these two shows back to back to watch and then talk about next week here on the Stardom Cast. So if I can give ourselves a cheap plug, I just did. So yeah, really interesting stuff to see how this is basically the first weekend after the convergence. You know, again, as you mentioned, the landscaping show or the changing of the landscape of Stardom. So it's interesting to see how all this stuff is going to play out.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just to remind you, Saturday, June 29th, Korakuen, according to Stardom World, will be live, and Stardom in Shinjuku, which is emanating from Sumitomo Hall, will also be live on Sunday as well. So Matt, we will actually have some things to talk about on Wednesday next week, which will be nice. But what feels like the end of a very, very emotionally draining episode. Matt Turner, we've reached the end. We've reached the summit. We've converted the conversion. We are there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to this episode.
Sorry to interrupt. We missed
my God.
One segment.
How could I forget? Matt Turner, it's because we've been apart for so long. That's what it is. Matt, of course, please embark on your voyage of Io and Kairi Watch.
Your own Kairi Watch this past week on Monday Night Raw. We have a Money in the Bank triple threat qualifier. If you remember, one Io Shirai qualified last week, and we are fingers crossed that one Kairi will qualify, but she has to go against Lila Valkyria and her old nemesis in Shayna Baszler. I'm not a fan of three-way matches, rather the three-way dance matches, but for some reason, the women wrestlers know how to have a great one. There was a great one with Io last week. This one was phenomenal. Shayna Baszler just runs through Kairi and Lyra Valkyria early on the match. Lyra Valkyria hits a Northern Light suplex to Shayna Baszler for a 2 count. Kairi starts going to the Azumi playbook with the double head scissors takedown and a double stomp. Kairi hits a beautiful dive off the apron, and then she hits an apron DDT to Shayna Baszler. Kairi was really on her stuff. By far the best match, the best she's looked since she's been back in WWE. Lyra Valkyria does the Sari style basement drop kick to Shayna Baszler, and then she hits a fisherman's buster onto Kairi for a 2 count. Shayna Baszler comes in, hits this beautiful Regalplex onto Lyra Valkyria that scores her a 2 count. She then locks in the rear naked choke, the Careful to clutch to Kairi, but then Lyra Valkyria is able to break up the Careful to clutch with a kick combination to Shayna Baszler, and then she hits the Dr. Bomb onto Kairi for a 2 count. Shayna Baszler then locks in the rear naked choke to Lyra Valkyria. Lyra goes to roll back to do like the Bret Hart Roddy Piper WrestleMania 8 finish. But before the ref can count to 3, Kairi comes off the top rope, crushing Shayna Baszler with an insane elbow. But as she gets up, Lyra Valkyria scoops her up and hits her with the Nightwing, pinning Kairi for the 3 count. thus having Lyra Valkyria qualify for the Money in the Bank ladder match. This was absolutely fantastic. Later on the show, we have Fire and Dawn. They defend their the women's tag team championships successfully against Carter and Chance, and then afterwards, Damage Control comes down and beats the crap out of them, and then Io hits a moonsault to both Fire and Dawn, thus basically showing a more violent side of one Io Shirai. Rob, good one. That was the end of our Io and Kairi watch. Again, a damn good three-way match with Baszler, Kairi, and Valkyria. If you have the time, highest recommendations.
Is that what Bianca and Jade are calling themselves, Fire and Dawn?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, fair enough. That's a decent name. And in terms of finisher names, can we just appreciate, just for a moment, Lyra Valkyria's Nightwing is such a great name for a finishing move. I'm incredibly jealous. Anyway, as I was saying, Matt Turner, we have now reached the end. I'll do that. I'm not going to do the entire spiel again, but we have reached the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate your support. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. If you can leave us a 5-star review and a comment, that really does help us be exposed to even more people. If you haven't already, you can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/the Stardomcast, where you can get all of our episodes early and ad-free for as little as $1 a month. Check out the website, www.thestardomcast.com, for all of our archived episodes, the news surrounding Marigold and of Stardom, of course, as well as all the stats, win and loss records, and all that good stuff to do with Stardom as well. If you want to follow us on social media, you can at the Stardomcast. You can also follow me on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin. Matt Turner, a breathless episode, I think you'll agree. Sign us off, good sir.
Absolutely, folks. Questions, comments, suggestions, let me know. Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and or the Twitter is the best way to get a hold of me. If you want to shoot me an email, the email address is thestardomcast22@gmail.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me, again, via the email system. Folks, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. I know we jam-packed a lot in there. I hope you enjoyed it as much as myself and one Mr. Rob Goodwin enjoyed giving you all the fantastic news and information that is our beloved Stardom professional wrestling promotion. Again, we appreciate your support. Can't do it without you, because like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast, because when all is together and everybody's different, everyone's special.